Welcome to the BJJ Executive Podcast, Episode 6. I'm your host, Dave Kroll. And wherever you're coming from, once again, I just want to thank you. I couldn't tell you enough. If I were to say that my heart was full of humility and gratitude, that would be a massive understatement. So wherever you're at on the time spectrum, your today is different than my today, your yesterday is different than my yesterday. I really am grateful for your time. Thinking about this week once again kind of takes you back. You do a lot of backtracking as you try to find what the right way to approach each different guest and how that's going to be the most applicable to the listeners and their jiu-jitsu journey. And I was taken back to a quote that I've been thinking about quite a bit lately, and that is that mismanaged success is the number one cause of failure. And likewise, a well-managed failure is the number one cause of success. And maybe not the number one, but a leading cause in both cases. And I've been pondering that quite a bit lately as I thought about some of the transitions in my own life, both that have happened over the years and then also that are happening right now. So for those that know me, those that know a little bit about my background, you'll know that I am kind of in a state of flux. And I'm in a flux because things have gone well. I'm kind of entering a new world of my, kind of career. I guess you could say I'm transitioning from one phase of life to another. And it's not the first time though. And so I started thinking back, why couldn't I have pulled this off in the past? And there's no big fall from grace. It's not like there was some big, catastrophic unwinding or whatnot. But when I look back, I can't deny the fact that I didn't capitalize on the opportunities that I had in front of me to their fullest. I never took advantage of all that life had given me and all that some of those successes had given me. And so way outside the context of this podcast to really dive deep into every element of that. But I think anybody is compelled to troubleshoot some of those issues and find ways to compartmentalize areas. And as I've done that, one of the areas that undoubtedly has been missing, and quite frankly, some of that is missing to this day, and I need to be wary of that. And that is that sometimes when you're successful, sometimes when you experience some level of success, you tend to get lazy. You tend to rest on your laurels a little bit. And in my case, maybe that's just lacking a little bit of intensity. Sometimes in corporate America, and anybody that has been in that type of a world could probably relate to this statement, we tend to think of things in sort of a choppy continuum. And the corporate world kind of gives this to us in the form of bonuses or whatnot. So let's say you do something really well. Let's say you sell a company. Let's say you have a big deal. Let's say you have something that somebody would ordinarily attribute some level of success to, and you get paid for it. Rather than thinking of that as just kind of a normal thing, sometimes you tend to do a little bit of a victory lap. And when that victory lap brings in some level of lethargy or some level of even complacency, I'm here to tell you that the thin line of taking a break, pulling back to ground idle a little bit, and then that thin line that's crossed when suddenly things just start cooling off, that can be a little bit too much. And so one of the ways that I've combated that in my life, being wary of that, and it's not just intensity, there's other things as well, but you surround yourself with people who have mastered those levels in their life and who could supplement them in yours and who can encourage you to be better in areas that you just might naturally sort of trend away from. And if I want to get good at intensity, I surround myself with some of the best and most intense people there are. And today's guest 100% pings on that scale. This is somebody that I met a couple years ago. I would say we met on the mats, and over the last couple of years, we've formed a friendship in different ways. It started with just rolling. It started with catching up on just kind of little topical items about, hey, how's the family doing and whatnot. And then the relationship grew. We did a couple lunches together. We did some business work together. We've traveled on a couple different occasions together. And as we've gotten deeper and deeper into the relationship, it's undeniable that when I'm around this person, the level of accountability and the level of intensity in my life is meaningfully changed. And I hope that comes through today. I'm sure that it will. But I'd like to introduce my next guest for episode 6, husband, father of 4, playing big time zone defense there with 4 wonderful children that I've had the pleasure of meeting. A successful entrepreneur and a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt at the 55 Highland Village location. My man, Tristan Ghazal. Tristan.
Hello. Excited to be here.
That's awesome, man. Well, dude, I don't think anybody would ever accuse you of lacking intensity.
I appreciate that.
Including
I'd
today.
like to think so.
Including today on the mats, by the way.
Yeah, you gave me a hard time. I only think I was only up by 2.
I don't want to hear it. I just didn't even bother to keep score.
No, you should have.
I should have, right?
Yeah,
I even talked about that in a podcast, didn't I? That I need to be a little more cognizant.
Of the score.
Yeah.
I mean, especially the clock and the score. They're always matter. Even if you're down by 6, now the clock matters because you're not going to make 6 points up in 30 seconds, but you can submit them in 30 seconds.
That's true.
Like a perfect example with Isaac. I mean, he was up on me. I mean, sweat me, pass. So that's 5. Mount 9.
Yeah.
So he's up by 9. So when I got back in his guard and opened his guard,
you're like,
why am I bothering to pass? So I grabbed his leg and tried to take his foot out.
Nice.
It didn't come. It stayed there.
The infamous Tristan footlock.
My only leg lock. That's straight ankle. I've been doing since blue belt.
Well, why take something away that doesn't need to be taken away?
It works.
Yeah. What's Isaac's last name? Do you know?
Tuafa.
Tuafa. He's Hawaiian, Samoan.
One of the two,
like
and there's a big difference.
Yeah, I'm sure I'm probably going to pay for that comment.
I was about to say he is hyper aware of what the difference is.
That's awesome. He'll have to educate me.
Yeah. I mean, and I think there's a lot of value in having pride in your heritage, simply so you know where you came from.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. Yeah, Isaac's been. Yeah, he and I talked for a little while in the gym today. He over the last year or so. I mean, people are probably wondering who this is. I mean, Isaac is a phenomenal human being first and foremost. But he's a really good purple belt in our gym, and dude, he seems like he's lost like 60 pounds or something like that. Now that's made him like frighteningly strong and agile and athletic. Yeah,
I mean, feels about 440.
Yeah,
give or take, and I mean, scary fast. I think he's actually faster than me because when he hits those sweeps and stuff,
faster than me.
I'm like, how does something that large move that fast?
I know, man. I remember him tossing me on my shoulder. Mm-hmm. I paid the price for like a good solid 6 months.
I picked up an arm bar. And so I scoop it up. I'm inside control. I mean, textbook. Like I grab my lapel, and he just stands up.
Yeah,
and just keeps his arm. I'm like, okay,
sounds like Isaac.
Yeah, and I tried to knee bar him one time, and you can't knee bar a leg that big apparently.
I know.
It just didn't work.
It's an oak tree. It was cool being back today, man. Because Formiga was there, which was awesome. I mean, what do you think? We had 12 black belts
at least.
Yeah.
I think it was Ryan.
Maybe more.
I think Ryan said there was 50 people on the mat.
50 people? Dang. Yeah, I believe it. Had to break it up a couple different times. And there were some straight up killers on there too. So yeah, clearly it's January. Clearly it's tournament season. So you guys been traveling a bit, man. So you're just back last night from Tennessee.
Yeah, just went to a major weekend conference. Nice. Had good numbers. Everything's growing. I mean, business is very, very healthy.
Super cool, dude. So, well, thanks a lot for agreeing. I mean, you were one of the first people that I talked to about this conceptually, right? I mean, going back, I don't know, probably like 4 months at this point, you know, and you and I have had this on the...
I think we were talking about it in the car when we were going to Maine.
We might have. Yeah, we might have. Ironically, I don't know if I've talked about this on the podcast yet or not, but it was Pete Roberts that like indirectly kind of inspired the way that the podcast has become. And just really quick, not to go into the rabbit hole on it, I wanted to do a platform like this for a long time and just had, struggled to figure out a way to do it. And the problem that I was having is that I kept coming back to my roots and my DNA and how I'm wired. And so it was always like, is there some sort of a commercial, angle that I could approach? That's just the way I'm wired. And Pete, either in a podcast or in a speech or a discussion, I don't remember what, had said something about like the beginnings of Origin and its connection to jiu-jitsu. Now, like obviously Origin is a business. I mean, he plowed down a freaking backyard to build a factory. I mean, like he is 100% in a for-profit business, but he mentioned it as a way for him to contribute in some way to jiu-jitsu. And then it was like, it just clicked. It was like, cool. That makes sense. Like this could be something a little bit more communal. So like, well,
it's those things that end up making the value is nothing more than, money's no more than a reflection of the value added to the marketplace. Like, so wealthy people, everyone's like, oh, they're evil. Like, no, they added a lot of value. Like the convenience of my life with my Amazon Prime membership, I think Jeff Bezos should be a billionaire for how much better my life is because of that contribution. I mean, I own my business, and just the inventor of Excess Energy Drink should be a multi-millionaire. I mean, my life is way better with that product.
Yeah,
I mean, it doesn't matter what it is. If you create something that everyone loves, you're probably going to be rewarded for it. I mean, and if you look at think it was Zuckerberg, and I could be wrong, don't quote me, that came up with the Pandora software and then gave it away.
Zuckerberg came up with Pandora. Dude, Pandora was one of the originals, man.
I think
the
OG
so. Of streaming.
Well, he's like, I came up with a platform that figured out what kind of music you liked and then played that kind of music.
Yeah.
And I gave it away. But he's and I could be wrong. Don't quote me. I think I remember hearing that in
I struggle to find ways that I would like Zuckerberg. So if you've just found one, then nothing against Zuckerberg.
I can find a way to like everybody.
Yeah, you could.
I'm commanded to love them, so you might as well.
You're just too nice, man. And people on the podcast that don't look at you, you look like Mr. Incredible. You've got this like freaking like punching bag looking build. This long jaw, all jacked up fighter looking and stuff, but you're super nice, man. I mean,
Smiling Savage, apparently.
I love it, dude. Smiling Savage. We were talking about that a little bit before. You need to find a way to get that printed or something.
I gotta thank Jason Sampson. I mean,
Jason Sampson.
Jason Sampson. He's a 3rd degree black belt. He's under Carlos now.
Yeah.
And
he's got his own place in South Lake, doesn't he?
Yeah, it's a fantastic school. I mean, and he's really cool. I mean, like he's got a good story. Super genuine and an animal. Do you ever watch any of his stuff? You watch any Fight to Wins or anything?
When I lived in Dallas, I don't know, 10, 12 years, maybe 15, I don't remember when it was, but 2010-ish, he was at Moeller with me. Mm-hmm. And he was, I think he was a black belt. Mm-hmm. I don't remember if he was.
He's been a black belt forever.
Yeah, and that was 10 years ago, so I mean, or whatever. That's only, I'm sure he's reinvented himself several times. Clearly, he's a business owner now and has gotten tons and tons better.
I just know that I've got probably 40 pounds on him, and he gives me a super hard time.
Really?
I mean,
that's crazy.
I can't think of a time I've submitted him. If I have, it was like I felt like he gave it to me. Maybe if
I know that feeling.
Yeah, and that's a big if. I don't think I have.
Thanks for that. I'm sure.
Right. It's like you go with Ian and like he just leaves his arm.
Dude, don't even get me started. Don't even get me started. Although recently Ian has been. I wouldn't even use the word training partner. It's not fair. He has allowed me to work with him in the classes. We're close to the same size and whatnot. And anytime he's there, he comes and grabs me and like, I'll take advantage of that all day, but he teaches as well, man. But like whether he teaches or not, that dude throws me around like nobody else. And Danny O'Leary, older guy that comes in and does videos and whatnot in the gym.
Oh, Danny.
Yeah, Danny.
Yeah,
okay.
I know Danny.
So Danny will send me text along with optimistic and motivational things in a timely manner almost every single time. Thank you, Danny, if you listen. And he sent me a video once, and this wasn't so helpful. But it was Ian just tearing me up. Yeah. And sometimes you watch a new guy on the mat, maybe it's his first night, and you're like, oh, don't worry, you'll learn how to put your feet someday. Like you'll get better at this. Like you just don't know how to move your arms.
Ian makes me look like I've never taken a jiu-jitsu class.
Seriously, don't ever watch a video of you doing it.
No, it's terrible.
Because it was like
I have. Danny sends them to me too.
Does he really?
Oh, if I get my ass kicked, yeah, absolutely.
Most of the time he'll send me something, and I'm like, oh, that's awesome, cool. Okay, so maybe it didn't go that well, but I can troubleshoot it. When I'm with Ian, I'm like. And I know it too. I feel it. I'm like, what in the world is going on? Like, why can't I move my hands? Like, like where do my grips go? How come I can't put my arms in? Like all of those little neural passageways or whatever are just closed off for some reason, probably
He's probably got that black belt magic. I haven't figured it out yet, but
I
think it's there.
Oh, believe me, dude, you've got it in more than one ways. But Ian is he's a different animal. Not to mention he's just massive. Picking up fire hoses all day and whatnot. Did you figure out, are you going to Maine or not yet?
So here's the
TBDs.
TBD. I'm not saying no. Here's the thing. If you would ask me the week after, the answer would have been no, simply because I missed my wife. I missed my babies.
Yeah, it's a long trip too, man. A week is quite
it's a big commitment.
Yeah.
And I loved it when I was there.
Yeah. Well, you took advantage of pretty much every second.
Oh, yeah. I had a really good time. I mean, I paddleboarded more that week than I have my whole life.
Yeah.
I mean Echo Lake is just
150 rounds, I'm going to guess.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean,
probably not far off.
I was about to say that's not, because I did 5 rounds each session, 3 sessions a day. It's 15.
It's 15 times whatever it was, 6 or 7.
6.
I don't
6
even know
days.
what that is.
And
probably should, given my line of work. But.
Well, yeah, I haven't passed math legitimately since 8th grade.
I think it's like 70.
It sounds like
somebody's got a calculator and they're like, you're an idiot.
It was a lot of rounds, and it was fun. I had a really good time. I just
jury's out still though.
Jury's out. I'm not saying no because sabbatical is something that I need to do more of in my life.
Yeah,
and that was the first one I've taken.
I remember you saying that.
Yeah, that was the first one I've taken, and even I'd say day 3 it didn't hit yet.
That you were off.
Yeah, it took that 4th day where we were leaving, and there was still 2 more days left. I'm like, This is why God takes a day off.
Yeah.
All right. That makes sense.
Did you take a hard day? I mean, did you like disconnect from your business and stuff as well while you're there? I don't remember
so
if I asked you that.
I did Wednesday night, some quick touch base with a handful of people because we had committed to a game plan before I committed to going to the camp, and I wasn't going to ditch them.
Yeah.
Because I told them I would. And so, but I mean, I was on the phone for maybe an hour.
Yeah.
So I did an hour of work that whole week, and I didn't need to do it. And it really wasn't work. It was just coaching. So I was basically off.
That's cool. I kind of made that like, some people, I don't know, everybody's got their own style, but like when I go on vacation years ago, I would just, thrash through it. It wouldn't even have been a vacation, and anybody that was around me would have been miserable. And, and what I started doing is I just like gave myself permission to check email or check in or something like that at a certain time. So nobody on the other side needed to be worried. Like, let's say you need to get a hold of me, then cool. At 3:00, that's when I'm coming online, and I'll answer whatever question you've got. But I won't go scrolling through subjects or anything like that. I'm looking for something that like you needed to find me on. And if it's not, then fantastic. If you needed me to approve something or whatever it was, then cool. Then I just tend to be able to mentally relax a lot more. That might be.
You got to compartmentalize.
Yeah.
I mean, have you read, Andrew Carnegie wrote a book years ago, obviously, How to Stop Worrying and Start Living.
No, I haven't read that.
It's probably his best one. And everybody knows How to Win Friends.
Andrew Carnegie wrote
it. So same, How to Win Friends and Influence People was great.
Dale Carnegie.
What did I say?
Andrew Carnegie.
Yeah, Andrew Carnegie wrote it, I believe. Now I could be wrong. I could be misquoting. Anyway, How to Stop Worrying and Start Living. He talks about the Titanic.
Okay.
Why to go down? Because a bunch of little holes in all the compartments that weren't supposed to be connected got connected. And you read The Greatest Salesman in the World by Og Mandino,
yeah,
right?
Dude,
So
one of my unsurprising, unexpected.
Well, you start reading it and you're like, oh man,
yeah, like let's get to it. Okay, something about Bethlehem, let's go. And then the scrolls hit, man. That's legit.
It's a slap in a good way.
Yeah,
but anyway,
dude, I probably read that like 5 times. That was a gift from you, actually. I remember that now.
I won't bring the marketplace into my home or my home into the marketplace. I remember reading that and I was like, well, I own a home-based business. So, but it's about compartmentalization.
Yeah, conceptually, yeah.
Tier.
Yeah.
And ever since, it's harder to do when I retired. When I had my job, it was very easy to compartmentalize. I had my job, I had my business, and then I had my personal life, and it was easy to keep them split. But when my job went away, and I'm like, oh, I can do whatever I want. And it's easy to get sloppy when you have freedom.
Yeah.
The more freedom you have, obviously Jocko coined the term.
That's how I started the whole podcast, right? Is, like complacency, there's a fine line, man. When you pull the throttle back, like it can kick in a lot quicker than you realize.
Yeah, the Holy Bible says you should be content, and people confuse contentment with complacency very easily.
Yeah.
They're synonyms in most people's minds, but they're not synonyms in the English or the Greek language.
Yeah.
I mean, if you look at it, I should be content. I should be happy with what I have, blessed that I have what I have. But it doesn't mean I should be stopping.
Yeah.
Like that doesn't mean stop moving.
Yeah. Well, if you're sitting in a pot of boiling water and content means that I'm not going to be in this anymore and I might not be working as hard as I am right now, then you can easily connect the two. But once you get out of it, and you realize it's not life and that's not mandatory, and it's hard to turn it back and re-engage in a rational way.
Right.
It's difficult. Should we get into it a little bit?
Let's do it.
So, dude, I know actually quite a bit about you because we've spent a lot of time together, but like some of your early upbringings, I want to say you're from California, but I'm not 100% sure because it doesn't seem like it should be, but I think that's probably the case.
So I was born and raised in Southern California. So I was born in Long Beach Memorial.
Long Beach. Okay.
I was in Long Beach.
Cool.
Parents moved. My dad was in the life insurance business.
Okay.
Management. So, and he was very good at fixing underperforming offices.
Mm-hmm.
So they moved him around.
Okay.
And he took the promotions, and he was very much. He's a rags to riches story. He wrote a book. Obviously, I'm going to recommend everyone read it because I think there's some very valuable wisdom in there.
I should read it, man. It's on your bookshelf. I don't know why I didn't pick it up.
I got 2 copies. I'll give you one.
Dude, please. And, I'll definitely read it.
Yeah, Take the Helm. Roland Ghazal. Go pick it up. And Ghazal is spelled Ghazal because everyone thinks or Ghazal. However you want to pronounce it. We'll answer all of it. Anyway, he was a 18-year-old immigrant. Came over here with nothing in his pocket, and retired in his 50s.
Really?
Yeah.
I love that story, man.
And doing what everyone says you can't do. You can't just save up and retire, but between his investments and just living way below his means.
I can relate to that.
He's very wealthy.
That's awesome, man.
And just discipline. Like we lived, looking back, knowing roughly how much he was probably making, we lived way below our means. until I was like in high school. And it was probably still below our means. He just was making so much more that it felt like it was a major upgrade. I moved out and it seemed like everyone's lifestyle went up. I'm like, what the heck? I'm in this crappy little apartment and now you guys are in a mansion. And okay.
Were you the oldest?
I was the oldest. So I'm the oldest of 3.
Okay.
Got a sister and a brother in that order.
Okay.
And
are they both back in Cali or did they escape?
Technically, yes. So my parents moved from here to Livermore to Hawaii.
Livermore, like
California,
like Oakland type area.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. You fly into
cool.
SFO to get there.
Okay. Cool. I had a friend that was out there. Actually, he's a jiu-jitsu guy. He's probably listening up in Colorado now.
Well, that's where Nate's from. Is that area?
Oh, is that right? Mm-hmm. Okay. Cool.
And my dad ran the Stockton office, so he commuted from Livermore because he wasn't going to live in Stockton.
Okay, fair enough. That's probably a good call. Among many good calls, that would probably be one.
My siblings were still in school.
Although that might have explained your fighter background, I suppose.
It would have, but no. My dad, no athletics, no sports, not interested.
Okay.
Doesn't like to get sweaty.
Sounds like he's a hustler.
Oh, hustler in the business world for sure. And I mean, just genuinely wants to do the right thing in most circumstances. I mean, as any human
sure
can. Mom from California, not an immigrant, obviously. Born and raised in Southern California. They met here in California.
Yeah.
Got married, had me, my siblings, and then my senior year of high school, we moved to Texas.
Oh, lovely. That's a perfect time to move.
Perfect time to move.
Yeah,
I was so excited about relocating from Paradise to Dallas,
seriously.
Fort Worth.
Oh, my God.
I mean, we lived in Lake Arrowhead, California, which is a resort community. So I literally lived where everyone goes on vacation.
Is that up in the mountains?
Mm-hmm.
It is.
It's about 6,500 feet.
Whoa, dude. That's way up in the mountains.
Well, and I wrestled there. And our wrestling team was CIF champs.
Wow.
10 years in a row at that point.
Yeah, you could probably breathe with a Ziploc bag on your head if you're from up.
We went to the Flatlands and literally we'd always win in overtime.
Yeah, I'm sure conditioning is, I remember you telling me about that too, that like how much of a conditioning type of a program you had when you were in wrestling and stuff.
How
dare you get pinned type of a mentality.
We never did.
Yeah.
And Scott Kraft was the coach at the time. And he goes, hey, I don't care if you get tech fault. He plays cat and mouse with you. That's fine. Don't you dare get pinned.
That's awesome, man.
And
that's cool.
In my head, I'm like, well, what if they're really good? Really but
what if they do pin me?
What if they do pin me? What happens? And I can't remember. I only got pinned a handful of times in my career wrestling. And I mean,
I don't share that record.
Right. But so we're in California. I started wrestling. Parents hated wrestling.
Okay.
Hated wrestling. And
why did they hate it? Just didn't like the combat nature of it?
They just don't like combat, period.
Okay, yeah. I mean, it's a hands-on sport,
Right. And
arguably less violent than a lot of other sports, but I mean, it's one-on-one, man.
It looks really bad.
Yeah, it does. It does. Fight. It is, man. There's slams, there's limbs flying, there's injuries, but I mean.
Yeah, my nickname in wrestling was Thumper.
Thumper? I can totally see that.
Well, because I like the snap down.
Yes, you do.
And Thumper is also the name of a rabbit, and we won't talk about that part of my life because I'm pretty ashamed of it. But anyway, so I was Thumper and really good. Parents,
awesome.
They wouldn't come. They just my mom came to one, and thank God I won everything, or else I don't think she would have let me keep wrestling.
She just saw that you were successful in it and said, let's go ahead and let Tristan play this game for a while.
I guess it was a combination of they weren't having to pay for it because it was with the school.
Okay.
They knew it was good for me. They just didn't like it.
Yeah, fair enough.
And my dad really didn't like it. And unfortunately for my dad, the only one he came to, I got the mat mopped with my face.
Oh,
the guy racked up probably 12 points on me.
Oh, okay.
And it was a vengeance because we had a duel. It's one of the defining moments of my life at this duel because everybody lost up till 145. Mm-hmm. And I won. And
what were you wrestling at?
145.
You were 145?
No, nowhere close. I was wrestling at 145. I was probably walking around about 160.
Oh my God.
And so
you're a part of the beginning of that. Well, not the beginning. You were probably just another victim of the culture of weight cutting.
It was cultural.
Wrestling. Yeah,
it was cultural.
It's rough, man.
Yeah. Honestly, as much as I agree that there needs to be major reform in the attitude behind weight classes, it made me really tough.
Yeah, for sure.
I leaned on, reference your other podcast with Anthony. It's like cutting weight. It's isn't that bad.
Yeah. Dude, it is
by
a
comparison,
grinder, man.
By comparison, nothing was as hard as wrestling season.
Yeah.
And I did 3 of them.
Yeah.
I had 3 wrestling seasons and all 3 of them are cookie jar moments if you want to use Goggins' reference.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like if I'm hungry, it's like not that hungry. If I'm thirsty, not that thirsty. If I'm hot, it's not that hot. If I'm uncomfortable, not that uncomfortable. Because comparatively,
I
remember guys came back from. I remember one of our, I think it was our 60 pounder, or I'm sorry, our 71 pounder, came back, and he just gotten his Trident, He was a
Oh,
Navy SEAL.
really?
Came
Wow,
back and he was
dang.
just hanging out, and everyone's asking him, "Hey, how was it compared to wrestling practice?" Like, dude, wrestling practice is way harder. I'm like, wait, what?
Yeah.
Now, Hell Week, no, nothing's harder.
Of course,
than that.
yeah, that's a lot different.
In the conversation, not no disrespect to my Navy friends.
Long term,
The whole program comparatively to a wrestling season.
Yeah.
Because I mean, that's the thing, is a wrestling season, it's 5 days a week and they maximize the legal limit for practice time.
Yeah.
And the reason that I think we had such a good program is that there wasn't a dull moment. We didn't take time to stretch. All the stretches were done while conditioning. And all of our conditioning was wrestling related. Mm-hmm. Wheelbarrows, farmers carries, all that. Like, there was no idle time. Like, from, I think practice started at 12:30 till 2:30. Like, it was 2 hours, and it was just on for 2 hours.
Just a beast. Mm-hmm. Was your coach? Did he have a wrestling background?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. The one who preceded him, no.
California wrestling's huge, man. I mean, it is I don't know if it would be a bellwether of wrestling like an Iowa would be or whatnot, but I mean, I know it's huge out there. So
yeah, our duels were crowded.
Really?
That was the one thing about. Actually, back to the one match my dad went to, and got my face mopped. So I won that one. It was against a rival school, and I mean, I probably got double digits up on points before I pinned him, and then the crowd went nuts, energized the team. Everybody else won. Our heavyweight was like, if he didn't win, we didn't win, and he won, and it went nuts. And that guy had it out for me the entire time, and I didn't know that's who I was going against. So I'm relaxed. It's the finals match. I basically beat the dog out of everybody at this point. My dad walks up with his friend. They're up on this little overlook thing. I see him like, all right, great. I hit a,
cool.
I'm thinking I'm going to show off with this beautiful double.
Yeah.
I get inside and he just rips my head off. I'm like,
no.
Okay. And yeah, it wasn't pretty.
That's crazy. I mean, I think that, like, when I see Anthony and I were kind of talking about this a little bit as well. And I mean, if people haven't heard the Anthony Kronz episode, you should go back and listen to it, especially if you're interested in wrestling.
Yeah, he's a way better wrestler than me.
He's a way better wrestler than a lot of people in the country. I mean, given his background. But I mean, one of the things that we were talking about is the fact that, like, as a kid, you got one of the best lessons you learn is that, like, I got to get back up. Mm-hmm. Like, oh man, in fact, this is a tournament and this was the first match and I've just gotten pushed over to the losers bracket and I've got to wrestle probably 7 more times in order to get through this.
Third place is way harder than first place.
100%, dude. 100% to go through a big bracket and on the other side of it, I mean, definitely pays to be a winner, like, you're going to wrestle about half of the amount. But you're inevitably going to have one of those moments where you get kind of mopped up a little bit. Mm-hmm. And, like, I remember watching that with my kids when they were little, like when they first started jujitsu and stuff. Kai, who now is, off into doing his own thing and in his career and whatnot, he started jujitsu when he was probably like 7, something like that. Ended up being a really good wrestler as well. But I particularly remember him in the kids class. And of course, I'm new to jujitsu as well. I'm like a white belt. And I watched him spar another kid and get beat and then get up, shake his hand, be like, oh man, like, I'm a little disappointed, but he walked to the wall. I mean, like, if this was a birthday party a year earlier and he lost like a wrestling match or something like that was just impromptu, it's a freaking, catastrophic moment. You got a bunch of tears and stuff. You learn really quick, like, man, I just got to get up and wipe it off, know? So it's interesting that was a turning moment or something, because I'd have been proud of you.
What's crazy is it's the one sport where you have to get, I mean, I know that I'm sure pitching and a bad play in baseball is equivalent, or in basketball if you get, like, shown up by somebody, but you have to have temporary amnesia. But especially in wrestling, like, you legitimately got beat up.
Yeah.
It wasn't like he did a cool
or
layup
played
and you
with even. I mean, it can be bad if it's a really good skill or big skill difference.
Yeah, and in jiu-jitsu, same thing. I mean, like, the guy didn't even try. Like, I'm going to do this submission. I'm only going to do this submission on you. And you get caught in that submission.
That's the worst.
I've been doing this for a decade. What's wrong with me?
That's the worst, man.
A temporary amnesia is what my coach called it.
Okay,
and,
good.
Brian McGrath is a really high-level business owner in my marketing company. And he said, like, I'm going to teach my kids how to lose. That's a way more important skill set because you're going to lose way more than you're going to win in life.
That's a great analogy.
Yeah.
That's a great well, dude, if you want to learn that, then send them to wrestling practice.
Right? Oh, my gosh.
There's nothing better. We, both my kids wrestled, obviously, but, we're in wrestling season, as you know, and I've sent you a couple videos recently. And, like,
I'm loving it.
I just have to kind of, like, sit back, and hopefully everybody would agree. I'm talking about my kids here, that I have gotten a lot better. Like I used to be the guy that I had a switch. I either just went too overboard and regretted like being such an enthusiastic bystander on the sideline, or I needed to go like up to the top bleacher with a Bose headset on and just sit there, read the paper and just shut up because I couldn't control the emotions.
I literally drop my kids off at jiu-jitsu.
It's hard not to.
And I sit in my car and read because
you just get too coachy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, now I'm more like, look, I just take a couple breaths and I've gotten a lot better at it. But, clearly like my kid isn't undefeated, and I've watched a couple where it was just like, dude, that wasn't as good as he could do. I know that. I've got all this advice. It's bottled up. I want to give it to him right now, but he just needs to go get his head right. He needs to go take a couple breaths and get right back on
advice
that.
is criticism.
Yeah, 100%.
And it's not, even if it's perfect advice, it's never taken well.
100%. Or taken at all, so it's just kind of a waste of oxygen. It's funny that, like your analogy about kind of getting played with, do you know the big purple belt, Zach?
Like tall?
Big tall guy.
Yeah.
Dude, so he is so good. His skill level is so much better than mine. And we have, I would guess you would say complimentary games, except that he's just a lot better at it than me. And we were rolling for the first time in a long time. Now, at the end of the roll, he's like, you really improved. And I'm like,
after tapping me 3 times.
Thanks for the conciliatory, know. But then the next day, one of the guys that was watching, he goes, hey, no offense, man, but he just passed your guard like it was nothing. I'm like, why did you tell me that?
Thanks, that was helpful. I didn't feel that at all.
Yeah, but it's so funny because like that does come up. Anyway, back to Southern California wrestling. Obviously I knew you had a wrestling background. I could tell. I still feel it to this day. Every time you grab my gi, I feel this like just immense amount of power. Like I'm like the wrestler is present, like I just got, virtually snapped down. What brought you guys out to the great Republic of Texas?
So my dad got a promotion to take over the Fort Worth office, moved us here.
Okay.
And I'm cranky. I'm like going from Paris. I mean, I could have been surfing or sledding.
Yeah, dude, seriously.
The same afternoon. Moved here and I was cranky about it. I wrestled for Grapevine High School.
Okay, cool.
And
so you were a local boy.
Local boy.
Nice.
And I did well. I lost in the semifinals at not CIF, UIL. And so I didn't go to state. And I didn't know about the 4-year eligibility rule. When I moved here, I thought I had an extra year wrestling. I'm like, hey, you know what? I'm moving to Texas. That sucks. But hey, I get an extra year wrestling because the credits didn't transfer. Like I needed government and something just we didn't do in California. We combined government and history called social studies in California. Public schools here, there's a separate government and history course.
Oh, okay.
Anyway.
I think you have to take Texas. I
had a couple classes that you had to do here that we just didn't have there.
Okay.
And so I extended my high school career hoping I would get an extra year wrestling. I didn't know there was an eligibility thing here because we didn't have that there.
I didn't know that either, actually.
You have 4 years from when you start freshman year because people try and get their kids bigger for football apparently. Oh. And that's why the concession was put in there. So find out after I'm done with my season and stuff, thinking I have another season, that I can't wrestle anymore. I'm like, oh, okay. So I graduated earlier, went to UTA. They had a club team. Okay. Got third in the nation, which was cool.
Do they still have the club team? Do you know?
I don't know.
I know UNT does.
The national championships were at UNT.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So I got third, which was cool.
Awesome. Wow. Amazing.
Yeah. I lost to the guy.
How was it leveling? Did you feel like you leveled up going to club?
Oh my gosh, it was so much harder.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Even it was because here's the thing. In my head, because I wrestled in Texas and I wrestled up. My last year wrestling, I wrestled 170. 180 here, and I was walking around about 170. I was like 10 pounds. I was way smaller than everybody.
Okay.
But I was a little bit better than everybody too. So
Did you just choose to wrestle up? You didn't want to?
There was an open spot because they needed to line up.
Gotcha.
And I'm like, it's not my last year.
Next year's weight class, man. 180.
It was a lot of kids. Yeah, I never had less than, I think it was 7. Was every tournament was 7 matches.
Wow, dang.
And it was great. I loved it.
That's where Kai was at too.
And anyway, I went and they just weren't training that hard. And I'm like, I don't want to be mediocre. Yeah. I hated it. And speaking of intensity, I was just like, there's just not enough. Nothing was comparable to California. Yeah. And I did that, and then I was like, well, I'm not going to do it again. Well, maybe I'll get into MMA. So UFC was getting really big. The Ultimate Fighter reality show just played season 1, and I watched it, and I'm like,
I remember
the reality,
those, yeah.
The house thing's stupid, but I mean, this part's cool. Yeah. Okay.
So we're probably like early 2000s, 2004 or something like that, I'm going to guess.
Right. And
just thinking back to UFC season 1 or whatever. UFC.
I was still
Ultimate Fighter.
I was still living with my parents. And so I was 20, I think. And my friend's like, well, there's an MMA school down the road. So I went and checked out MMA school, did sparring for the first time. Like, hey, we don't punch it more than 50%. Your goal is to tag. Your goal is to do this. And I was like, and I was terrible. Like, my wrestling was great. We got to the ground. I kept getting submitted. I kept getting like all these punches in my face. I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. This is awesome. Like it was like being fish out of water.
Yeah, totally.
And
totally different rule sets. I mean, yeah, completely different than wrestling. You know,
well, it's 5 minutes,
of course, but
it's 5 minutes without
and it's
stopping.
5 minutes. Yeah,
so everything else, there was always a break at 2 minutes.
What was 2 minutes? Yeah,
yeah, it was 2 minutes, and then you reset. As opposed to this one, I'm like 4 minutes in, and I'm like, where's my reset?
Yeah, exactly.
And my friend's like, well, you need to learn jiu-jitsu if you're going to do this. And I did wrestling classes with Yusuf. I always butcher his last name.
This is the Iranian guy? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, he's Star Jiu-Jitsu in Carrollton.
Okay. Is he still there teaching?
Yes.
Okay. I mean, I need to go meet him because I've heard so many good things about him.
Coolest dude ever.
Yeah.
Anyway, so
Carrollton's not that far away either. I ought to just
and
go
like
out there.
good wrestlers.
Yeah.
And like the jiu-jitsu is really, it's more like sambo.
Okay.
Like
cool.
it's just really aggressive.
Awesome.
Like
that sounds
smashing.
Sounds like our role today.
Right. Yeah.
Going with Tristan. Cool. It's going to be.
I said once I got my black belt, I was going to
things.
go start taking sambo. I need to do that. And anyway, so I went there, and my friend Austin, who I wrestled with, was like, dude, you need to go to Yusuf's. It's great. And I put on the gi for the first time. I'm like, I hate this. This is stupid. It's pajama fighting. And then I went with Buddy Clinton was training there. Buddy Clinton, one of Hoist's first black belts.
Okay.
King of the Cage champion several times. I think he's in Oklahoma now. And he beat the dog out of me. Like, I haven't beaten up like that even in high school. You know what I mean? Like, I was like, just okay.
This is a jiu-jitsu match? Or was
it was jiu-jitsu. It was in the gi.
Okay,
and
so totally different.
Totally different.
You're used to being totally free and movement and whatnot.
Well, and that's the thing is, the first guy I went with was another white belt. And it was back and forth. It was another wrestler. But when we were on the ground, it was just really static.
Yeah.
And boring.
Yeah.
Because neither of us knew what we were doing. But this guy got me, and I tapped, and then got me again, and I tapped. And I couldn't take him down. So this guy was a good wrestler. And I was like, okay, I'm hooked. So I signed up. And Yusuf, and I didn't know, like, that was my only point of reference. He was basically in the back of a warehouse in this, like, and he had puzzle mats everywhere.
Oh, really?
So it felt like Fight Club.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like in the back of a warehouse in the industrial district.
Yeah.
Like you're in the middle of nowhere.
That's a cool feeling.
It was really cool.
Yeah.
And so that's where I started and loved it.
Okay.
And then he got his new academy, and it was like 30 minutes further for me.
Oh, yeah.
So it went from one spot to another, and I couldn't make it with the school work, all that stuff. I just couldn't make it. And I was just like, hey, what should I do? And Buddy Clinton opened a school in Southlake where I was living. And I was in Colleyville, not far.
Okay, yeah.
And went there, and I got 4 stripes on my white belt. And I watched it. Yeah. Oh, hey, it was for Buddy. He gave them sparingly.
Nice.
And I mean, I was there with a kid named, I say kid, he's older than me. Albert Hughes. He owns Genesis Jiu-Jitsu. He's a blue belt.
Okay.
So he was a blue belt. I was a white belt. And I was so excited because I was doing good. I just got my 4th stripe. And when he put it on, it probably didn't get put on hard. Washed my gi. Stripe fell off because I washed my belt. Because I think staff is gross.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Right?
I'm not one of those never wash your belters. Like,
well, Buddy is. He took away all my stripes. And
oh, really? So it's like a
pissed at me.
punishment?
Pissed at me. I mean, like,
that's crazy. I've never heard that.
Belt. I mean, lost his mind.
Really?
But I'm just like,
okay.
I'm like 21, 20. And I'm like,
yeah.
Okay. And so took them all off, and
somebody's going to have to explain the rationale. Like, maybe I'm missing something, but I honestly don't understand that.
Magic washes off. Maybe that's why my black belt's not working, is because I washed it.
Is that right? Could be.
Could be.
I don't know that many people would agree with the not working part, but
if I felt like it.
Your brown belt worked pretty good. Your black belt works pretty good.
My brown belt felt great. My black belt didn't felt great yet.
Well, you washed your brown belt, presumably.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
Anyway, so he lost that connection. He was in a karate academy teaching out of it, and I think there was a friction. He moved over to Paul Halmey School.
Yeah.
Peak Performance, and I started training there, and then Buddy left.
Okay.
And so I started training under Paul. Paul was great to me.
That is an interesting dynamic to be teaching a ground grappling jiu-jitsu class and in a karate class.
Right.
You know.
Well, and the guy who owned the karate school was training with us. Like he was learning jiu-jitsu, and they just Buddy's people skills at the time were below par.
Yeah.
And
was there a conflict with students or anything like that? I mean,
I didn't pay that close attention.
Okay.
I only trained twice a week at that point.
Oh, okay.
And so like I came to class, I listened, I rolled,
Gotcha.
I did all this stuff, and I left.
The karate guys did their thing on the side. You did your thing on the other side.
Mm-hmm. It was a lot like, have you ever seen the movie Sean
Probably
Patrick,
not.
whatever. It's called Born a Champion.
No.
Anyway, it's an old jiu-jitsu movie.
I only watch Top Gun over and over and over again.
Do you watch the new one after it and then rotate through?
No,
Or
I
just
watched
Top
the
Gun?
new one once just to say I did it, and then I went back and watched the old one three
That's fair.
times to wash the new off.
To wash it off. That's great.
Yeah, man. Bring back the Tomcat, baby.
Amen. Amen. Well, they did bring it back.
That's true, and kind of a weird, like, I stole a Tomcat, and then,
If
it
there was a
happened
way
to
to
be
get
fueled.
it, if there was a way to get it in the movie,
Fair
it would have been
enough.
impressive already.
Fair enough.
It was pretty impressive that they even got it in there.
I agree, man. I
But
agree. Anyway,
I-
sorry. I
no,
took
no.
us off course once again.
I don't remember. Rabbit trails are fun. People listen to these for rabbit trails. They don't listen to it for the structured schedule. They're like, okay, what are they going to say?
You and I are pretty close to the same age. And if, like, when I grew up, dude, you have no idea how many Soviet MiGs I shot down on my BMX bike.
Amen.
I mean,
Same.
not to mention Soviet soldiers I killed with pine cones and acorns.
Well, if I was running up a hill, I was Rocky.
well, there you go.
Yeah, I mean,
dude.
like you can't run up a wall or, to the top of any hill without going Drago.
There you go, dude. I remember I made a big poster board and I wanted my parents to like frame it and put it above the mantle. It was the two, like the U.S. boxing glove and the Soviet boxing glove coming together. You know,
Nice.
It was kind of like that part of the Rocky IV movie. Oh, geez.
Everyone likes Rocky 4.
If you don't like Rocky IV, well,
It's because you're rooting for the communists to lose.
that's right. Exactly. I think there's another podcast for you somewhere.
You can move to California.
There you go.
Yeah.
Even better. Well, now that we've alienated everybody.
Right. Hey, I voted for John Kerry in my first election.
Did you?
I
There's
did.
nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, well, maybe it depends on who you ask.
Well, yeah, I guess it does depend on who you ask.
Right.
I won't ask.
So I moved here, big culture shock. And I was doing jiu-jitsu. My parents said, okay, hey, we're moving to California. You should come. And I'm like,
So your parents moved back to California? Mm-hmm. Okay.
to Livermore. They moved to Northern.
Okay.
And I'd been here
Dude,
a few
talk about
years.
a different world there too.
Right.
Yeah.
And I was dating Jenny, my
Okay.
wife, and like we weren't engaged yet, but I was like, I'm not letting this one go.
Yeah,
And
good call.
I brought it up. She's like, well, I want to finish college first. Well, I'm not going to propose 3 years to go. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
Are you in college at this time?
I'm in college at this time.
Okay.
I
What were you
was
studying?
perpetually in college. I started as a business major because I didn't know what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
My parents were adamant. I wanted to go to the military. That's what I wanted to do. I
Yeah.
wanted to go in the Marine Corps. I wanted to enlist. I did not want to go to college. Parents begged and begged, please don't do it. Come on, we'll pay for your college. It's like you don't need to go in the military. I'm like, I want to go in the military. Like, I don't think you understand. And anyway, so I concede. I don't even get accepted to UTA. I go in what's called the Gateway program, which means we'll take your money but not give you credit.
Oh, really?
And so you have to take a remedial semester.
Oh, okay. That would have, I might not have even gotten accepted to that. So, I mean, yeah.
I shouldn't have. And anyway, so I did that. Jenny came to UTA because I was there. And I was a business major. And then I was like, well, really want to help people. I love science.
Mm-hmm.
Why don't I be a doctor? And so I switched to pre-med, take A&P. I started doing all the biology classes. And then a couple years into that, I went and interviewed a bunch of physicians. And all 5 of them were not happy.
Really?
And I'm like, crap. Okay, so I switched to kinesiology because what else are you going to do with those biology credits? I was already a personal trainer. I'd gotten a bunch of credentials. I basically treated my personal training certifications like an extra class. So I just got whatever maxed out my income at lifetime. So I got my ASM CPT, I got my PES, my CES, and then I had enough college credits. I tested for the CSCS. So, I mean, I did.
Is that like the
all
pinnacle
Yeah.
certification?
So
within the
CS is
personal training
Certified
world?
Strength and Conditioning Specialist. And if you ever look at anything in like Men's Health or whatever, they always say CSCS. It's because
Yeah.
it's bragging rights. It's basically,
Okay.
I know what I'm talking about.
Okay, gotcha.
Honestly, the NSCA, I mean, at the time, NASM had more recent studies and more updated content.
These are all associations within the personal training world?
Yeah.
Okay.
And anyway, so I got a bunch of personal training credentials and I maxed out my income at lifetime. And that's honestly where I was just kind of like, crap, I don't want to do this for 50 years either.
You're still going to college at this time? Mm-hmm. Okay. So you're fighting through. I mean, that's a pretty rigorous program too. I mean, it's not basket weaving. I mean, you're doing pre-med, kinesiology, I guess. I mean, this is coming from a guy who in 2 different, I did my undergrad and I did grad school and I had 3 credits in science.
Yeah. So A&P,
How would you do
was
that,
a butt
you might
kicker.
ask?
Yeah. A&P is a butt kicker. I loved it though. It was my favorite class. Honestly, I think it was probably I think everyone should take college level anatomy and phys just so they know how their body works. It's kind of like taking auto shop. Like I took auto shop in high school. I'm really glad I did because I know what's going on in my car.
Yeah.
I haven't popped my hood.
Yeah.
Like I've literally bought 3 cars, all 3. I don't think I've ever touched the hood. Like even when buying, they're like, don't you want to check under the hood? I'm like, you selling me a lemon? No, we're good.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I wouldn't know what to look for. Is there a bird's nest in there or something
It's
like
also,
that?
I took auto shop in 01,
Yeah.
99.
Yeah.
So, I mean, lots changed.
I could take the most basic car, like Kaz has a little Civic, and it's a newer model, and you open the hood up, and like, dude, I don't even know what to do. Like my first cars, I could.
And you were an airline
and
mechanic.
I was a mechanic.
Yeah.
And I could have fixed pretty much anything with a crescent wrench, and a flathead screwdriver. And now, I mean, I'm lucky I know how to, put fluids in the right way, like if I needed to add like washer fluid, it's a totally different world. But I agree with you. Everybody should, have at least an intro to those types of courses right there. I wish I did, especially with the stuff we're doing right now. If I had just like a primer on kinesiology or something in anatomy or something along those lines, if there is a primer,
right.
I would have benefited quite a bit. Cool, man. So at this time, you're still training jits?
So yeah, training jiu-jitsu at Paul's. He just gave me my blue belt.
Okay.
I heard my friends on the mat, I got sponsored by Game This. So I was like, okay, I'll write them a letter. And I wrote them a fancy letter, and they wrote me back. And I'm like, oh, okay. And so I'm like, hey, maybe I'll...
What do you say in the letter? Like, what is the...
I'm planning on competing. Would love to know more information about being a sponsored athlete.
Oh,
what do I do? And so I figured a letter was...
That's pretty smart, actually.
It seemed like they would respond,
Yeah,
and they did.
And
this is, golly, 05,
okay.
06.
Okay.
And just got my blue belt. Paul gave it to me after running me through a Shark Tank. Like, literally had everybody in the class beat me up, and I didn't know what was going on. It's just like, we're doing a Shark Tank, and I was just in the middle.
Yeah.
And he gave me my blue. It was really cool.
That's cool.
I was like, okay, this is pretty awesome.
That's awesome.
And
I like
that part was
like that.
Yeah, it was pretty addicting. I had that blue belt for, golly, 13 years.
13 years?
Something like that. So
what?
that was in 05.
Okay.
No, it was 06.
Okay.
Early 06. I think it was like January 06.
Okay.
And I competed as a blue like every month. Like I did Winter Wars was my first one as a blue belt.
Okay.
Which is a Machado.
Yeah, I remember his like in-house tournament.
Yeah. And then
where did the Gameness thing come in? Did Gameness?
I never actually got sponsored.
Okay.
I wrote them a letter. They said,
that's
that,
cool
yeah,
that they came back to you though. What did they give you advice on like how to get back into it or how to actually get sponsored, or did they just say?
I think I was so focused on just getting a resume for them.
Yeah.
That I just got, okay, I'm going to go do this. I'm still a white belt. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's cool, dude. I mean, that's a pretty ambitious move right there. I don't think many people would have even thought to do that.
Yeah. Well, because if I wanted to do it, I wanted to do it right. And so I was like,
that sounds like you.
I'm going to do that.
Glad to know that started early.
Yeah. And anyway, so I started competing and I started my business in November, basically, of 06.
Okay. The biz dev side. Okay.
Yeah. So I've been competing for a while. I'm like, okay, I got this. I mean, Paul was a great coach, really helpful for my game. Like, he didn't try and turn me into something. He let me stay a wrestler. Like, I was on top a lot. I'd get mount, then pull to a triangle or an arm bar or something. Like, I had a good... blue belts usually don't have a game. Yeah. But I had a game.
Yeah, right. You're a wrestler already. I mean, that is such a tremendous advantage. I think Anthony even said that, like, for him wrestling, like he got through a solid purple belt, basically.
Yep.
Enough to like, cause people problems, and kill time.
Right. And I started my business and I was in a bunch of decks. I was stupid with my money. And I'm working. I'm going to school.
Good company there. I mean, there's a lot of people that kind of fall into those little traps, Especially
I'm just glad I didn't know how normal it was.
Yeah.
Because if I did, I probably would have let myself off the hook.
Yeah.
A lot faster.
That's a good tip.
And it was July of 07. I've been working my fanny off. So I'm going to school full time. I'm working full time. I'm building my part-time business, but I'm working at any spare minute I had.
Yeah.
I'm listening to audios. I'm reading books. I'm developing myself because my mentors in that business said that your personal development rate will determine your income rate. So like if you can't outgrow, your mindset will grow before your wallet grows. Your wallet will fill in your mindset. Your mindset won't fill in your wallet.
Makes sense.
I think it was Benjamin Franklin who said, empty your pockets to fill your mind. Then your mind will work hard to fill your pockets.
Makes sense. Yeah.
And so I'm reading, I'm listening, and I'm getting around really good people that are mature, taking care of their families. And like, I'm going to be married. What am I doing playing on the mats? Like, I can't ask my wife to marry me with all this debt and not have an exit strategy.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, I'm going to give this up. I was a blue, which is when everybody quits, right?
Yeah, unfortunately.
Right? I was a blue belt, and it was during a tournament. Like, I just won my first one. It was a guy named Gabe. I knew him. We were white belts together. And, I mean, I beat the dog out of him. And not in a mean way. Like, just, I got a really good takedown, passed the guard, and got a Americana.
Yeah.
Like, I remember it very vividly because I'm sitting on the mats. It was at Flower Mound YMCA was where the tournament was.
Oh, really? The same Flower Mound YMCA that's still
right
there?
Here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I can't
even imagine them having a tournament.
I was sitting there. I do adductor stretch whenever I'm reading. So I'm reading my personal development book in between matches. I'm like,
You're just trying to hustle. And
children at play sign got put away. Men at work sign got put up. I'm like, I will bring this back when I'm retired. Because my goal was to retire within 5 years. I'm going to build my business really hard for 5 years, create an ongoing recurring income to where I can do whatever I want. When I can do whatever I want, I can do my privates. I can afford it, because I really couldn't afford it. It was like $180 a month. And I'm like,
it's a big commitment.
It's a big commitment financially. Yeah. And I was 22, 23.
Mm-hmm.
And I gave it up. Built my business. I lost one of my jobs while building my business in that 5-year stint. And I ended up working for a school down the road, worked there for about 6 months. So I got to train a little bit. That was fun.
So you're doing the personal training thing as sort of a career, I guess, I've mentioned this to you before. I don't know why you don't pick some of that stuff back up, because you're really good at it. I understand why you left at it. I understand why you wanted to move on, of course, but anyway, that's a total sidebar. We'll have to pick up another.
And here's the thing. I still like.
You should, man. I mean,
industry.
you're good at teaching people. You're good at fitness, obviously. And again, people can't see you, but you're in shape. We're close to the same age. I mean, you're starting to become one of the statistics of guys that actually stay in shape.
Right.
I don't know why you don't pick that back up.
I should.
Clearly, you should. You need people to encourage you. I'll be the one.
So, here's the thing. So I was a teacher for personal trainers. So I got recruited by National Academy of Sports Medicine to teach. I taught at a place called ATI. It was a trade school for personal trainers.
Familiar with that.
And I hated teaching. Even though I like teaching, I like it in very small doses.
Okay.
And
a full-time teaching role wasn't a good fit.
It's like crab cakes. I like it as an appetizer. I don't want it as a full every meal.
That's good. Yeah.
And then I got recruited by Equinox. I was teaching for them.
Premier location, I assume that's probably what it
very
was.
High end.
Yeah, one of the bellwethers or whatnot of personal training.
And just a bunch of celebrity, high level clientele. George Bush was.
I got invited to one once in California, and you know me, man. You've criticized me of this too. We go to Lifetime, I'm like, oh my god, I fell out of place.
Why are there barbells and towels?
Okay, fine. I guess I'll tuck my shirt in. Even though it's not really like that. I just kind of metaphorically, that's what I feel like I should. Equinox.
It's a country club.
It was, I felt way out of place.
Yeah.
I'm covering my tattoos. This is not for me.
And I worked there. And so it was.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it was a cool job. And different manager came in. We didn't get along. I left. I was an independent. And in 2015, I was financially independent.
You've built your business.
My business was
it's churning out some income for you.
Mm-hmm. Now we had our third kid. Fourth wasn't on the way yet. And I was working at a UFC gym here in Flower Mound. Opened and closed it. I picked my schedule. If I lost that job, our income was fine. 6 figures in the bank, 6 figures coming in. And I'm like,
were you competing then too?
So that's why I'm like, you know what? I can do this. And so I trained my handful of clients, worked out with a client, lifted, and then went to a jiu-jitsu class from 1 to 1:30 or 1 to 2:30. And it was my 5-day week program. So I'm feeling awesome. I'm like, let's do an AGF. And so I signed up for an AGF, huge bracket.
Big grappling tournament, I guess, or big grappling. What is it? American Grappling Federation?
Yeah, American Grappling Federation. So it was a big bracket.
Just for those that don't know.
And I sign up and get double gold, both gi and no gi.
Okay. Blue belt?
I was a blue.
Okay.
And I signed up for the advanced no gi.
Oh, that's right. They kind of break it up into
advanced, novice,
intermediate.
Well, there's intermediate, and I almost signed up for the intermediate, but there was way more people in the advanced. And I was like, well, I don't want to win a bracket with 2 dudes in it.
Yeah, well, you and me both, man. That's kind of what happens when you get old, I guess.
Right. Well, I'm sure that my brackets are going to get smaller.
Yeah.
But at the time, I'm like 29, 30.
Yeah, that's adult division. There should be a big.
Yeah, and it was good. I had a handful of matches. It was fun.
That's awesome, man.
Oh, and I got on the podium like, all right. And I thought it was out of my system. Thought it was like, okay, good. This is a hobby now. I don't need to do it. I went to compete just to say that I did it again after I gave it up, so to speak. I didn't want to quit jiu-jitsu. It was always in my head I was going to come back. I was going to eventually fight pro, and I'm going to do all this stuff with jiu-jitsu when I get free. And once I had the family and the career and all that stuff, I just didn't want it that bad.
Yeah.
And I thought if I went, I'll know if I want to keep doing it or not. I'm either going to go and go, oh, got it back. I need to get back into this. Or I'm going to go and go, I'm good. And I got the second response. I'm good.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, I'll roll for cardio. It's better than a treadmill.
True. Goes a lot faster than being on a treadmill too.
And so I signed up over at Rogue Jiu-Jitsu. It was attached to a shooting academy. Kyle Pate's down there. Kyle Pate is a black belt under Alan Chabarro.
This is in 15?
Yeah.
Well, before we go into that, when you took off, Was it hardcore off? I mean, you were off. So put the gi away, put the belt in the drawer.
I got a Tupperware bin, wrote jujitsu stuff on it.
Okay.
Put everything in there, and I duct taped it shut so it wouldn't rot.
Okay.
Because I didn't know how long it was going to be.
Yeah.
I thought it was going to be a couple of years.
You made the decision, like, I'm going to put this up for a while. I'm going to focus
but I didn't throw it away.
I'm
exactly.
Focus on building my career.
Correct.
It's time to put this away.
It was my escape from my responsibilities.
Yeah.
Because combat has a way of completely taking over everything else in your brain.
Yeah.
And it's like when you're on the mats there, you're not thinking about your next meeting.
Yeah. Man, that's so true.
You're not thinking about your commitments. You're not thinking about your wife. You're not thinking about your kids. And it doesn't mean they're not important. It's just, I imagine it's like drinking. I imagine it's like golf with your buddies. I get to the jiu-jitsu and it's like, Pohada. Like I got
singularity of focus, man.
Nothing else on my brain when it's time. Okay, guys, fix your gis, get some water, and it's like, yes,
I know.
And I'm so eager, even though I know it's gonna suck.
Yeah,
and it's
suck
just
in a good way,
suck in a good way,
suck in a painful way too.
Right.
You know, I know. As I watched people filter in the gym today, I'm like, oh no.
Yeah, that school in Highland Village is the only place where, as people come in, you get more discouraged, not less.
I know. I just had to stop thinking of it that way, but you know, it's hard not to. I think that's important for people to realize because you're 100% right. Like that is, not only do you get a singularity of focus similar to you would in a sport or anything else or any other sport, you know, like when you're a pitcher, when you're playing football, obviously your head's in it too. But like with jiu-jitsu, it's skill based, which means you need to build the skill, which means you need to put time in. And the downside's so severe, especially if you see people around you that you're comparing yourself to. And people always say, don't compare yourself to others, but you know, guess who's around me? The others, you know? And so when Tristan's putting the time in, well, the pressure is now on me because we're training partners, you know, I want to hold myself to that level and I want to be a good partner as well. And also you see the disparity starting to come in.
Well, that's where the artist side of martial arts really matters here, because I think a lot of people here don't get comparison is the thief of joy. It's the popular
That's
phrase.
a good one. I've never heard that actually.
It's okay. Well, hey,
comparison is the thief of joy.
Tristan Ghazal said that. I'm just kidding.
Well,
yeah, but no, comparison is the thief of joy. However, with martial arts, it's art comparison. Like you don't compare Picasso to a Rembrandt. You can't. You can't compare one author to another. They're different people, different styles, different. It's still art.
Yeah.
But in that school, and this actually is the reason that I fought professionally, is because you can't control your associations and the effect your associations have on you. Attitude or actions are determined by attitude. Attitude is determined by atmosphere. You can't control your actions, and you can't even control your attitude. You can only control your atmosphere.
Interesting.
The 3 A's.
Kind of a chain of events.
Right. And so, like, why am I acting this way? Why am I on social media? Why am I eating this cookie? Like, what's wrong with me? I know better.
Yeah.
Attitude. Well, what's determining those attitudes? Your atmosphere. The ether, so to speak. Like, who are you around? The way you get bad dogs to behave is easier. Instead of training that dog, it's easier to put them with a pack of dogs that are well behaved. The dog will just assimilate. And so will humans. We assimilate to our associations, and you can't be at that school and not work on your game.
No, it's true. That's a good way to put it, man.
I never beat up every time.
That. Yeah, never thought of it like that. It kind of goes back to the beginning, you know. Not like I sought out somebody like you because I want to be intense, but like understanding that there's some gaps there. I mean, like I recognize that being around you does bring out a level of intensity because you're an intense guy, and I'm like, man, that's a good thing for me to be able to ascribe to. You know, it's an interesting way to put it, and you're right. That's a good analogy with Highland Village too, because you're. The downside
There's
is
a reason
severe,
people
man.
drive 45 minutes to an hour to come train here. They pass 5 schools that would easily be sufficient to get some training in.
For sure. Yeah.
And I do too. I mean, I drive 30 minutes now.
Yeah.
And it's not because I like driving. I hate driving. Like if I never drove again, I'd be happy. But I would be very unhappy training at another school when I knew that was an option.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. Cool, man. So I kind of hijacked it with taking time off, but what was after blue belt? I mean, how did you get back into the scene and you know, you purposely took time off, which people are going to do, you know? And what's interesting is that sometimes people don't, they say, and I'm kind of this way. Like I started training in 2007 and I took time off, but I never said, you know what, I'm done with jiu-jitsu. 2010 is not going to be a jiu-jitsu year for me. 2000, I'll pick it back up in maybe 3 years when I'm ready. I kind of dabbled, you know, and so it never really just kind of went away, which is, you know, I guess you could call it kind of a fade to black, but you're in an interesting situation where you said, look, I'm going to delay some gratification here and it's just not my time. I'm going to put this thing away. I'm going to pick it back up. How'd you get back into the scene?
So it's a depreciating skill set. Like if you take time off, you feel it.
Yeah.
You're
Timing,
not just conditioning.
It's
Timing, conditioning, and you don't forget the moves, but they're no longer muscle memory.
Yeah.
So like you need to drill some basics.
Even wrestling?
Even wrestling.
Yeah.
Like the double leg, a double leg is a timing shot. Like an outside single, same thing. Like there's setups and stuff like that you just forget to do if you aren't drilling regularly.
Yeah.
And sprawl, even that. Like if you shoot, I know to sprawl, but that's not instant. And yeah, I mean, it's a depreciating skill set. So when I started doing it again, I was telling myself like, hey, I'm doing this for a workout. I want to win, but I also want to be able to do this when I'm 50. Like I want my kids to jiu-jitsu. I want my kids to wrestle. And I want to be able, if my kids get close to my size, I want to be able to spar with my kids.
Yeah.
That was one of my life goals is if they wanted to, I wanted to, because my dad is just not physical.
We know Clark is going to wrestle.
Oh, yeah.
We've proven that.
Yes. We'll thank the Kroll family for the inspiration.
I could contribute. I'm glad.
Yeah. Jenny's not happy, but I'm very happy.
I'm going to need him. I'm going to need my fix. So by the time Kaz gets out, I'm going to need Clark to start stepping in so I can go to some meets.
Yeah. And
anyway.
Yeah, but so I started back in and I lifted. I was doing jiu-jitsu twice a week. And that's the thing. I know I can't progress if I'm not doing twice a week.
Uh-huh.
So if I do twice a week, I'm at least going to progress. And I can't get so busy that I can't commit 2 days a week to jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
And that was my mindset. And started training twice a week.
Blue
2017, belt. It was a blue.
Yep.
And then I know I was doing way better than most blues. I've been doing it a long time off and on because it's not like it ever goes away.
Yeah.
And Kyle just pulled out a purple belt one day. It's like, dude, you deserve it. And I'm like, bro, thank. I mean, I was elated. I'd been promoted since blue.
Yeah.
Right.
Which was quite a
yeah, very different promotion.
It's
but
good thing you wash your belt.
Right. And I was so appreciative. And James Brown, okay, Doc Brown,
okay,
was coming quasi regularly, and I mean, just every time you roll with him, you learn something.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, I'm loving him there. And then it had been a month. I'm like, where's JB? Like, what's going on? And so I message him on Facebook. I'm like, hey, where'd you go? And he goes, oh, Formigas. You need to come check it out. And so I go to Formigas, and there's 30 people there.
Yeah.
And
this is 2020, 2019,
2019.
Okay.
I've been training at Kyle's for maybe a year, maybe longer.
You're purple now.
Yeah, I'm a purple and comfortable. Like just training. Yeah. I mean, there's some guys there that give me a hard time enough to where I'm getting a good workout. Open mats are enough people. I get some good rounds.
Yeah.
And
typically the matcher that you want, like somebody that's going to match your skill and enough people to train with, which is great.
I mean, he's got a black belt there named Chad, who's our Muay Thai instructor that gave me a hard time. And like he would beat me sometimes, and like it was good, even though there was a big size disparity. And I go to Formigas, and I mean these guys are just, I don't say mopping the mat with me, but like I'm feeling it. I'm feeling it. And the move that he taught was just a little lapel choke from north-south. I went to open mat that next week, hit it on everybody, and I'm like,
where's this been?
Where's this been? And it's not that Kyle wasn't teaching. He was doing great. Like I know Kyle, I'm a huge Kyle fan.
Yeah.
He just opened a new school and made sure to go because I mean he gave me my purple. Like I'm super loyal.
Yeah.
And so I felt really bad calling him. I'm like, hey, it's 5 minutes from my house. You're 20 minutes from my house.
Yeah.
Sometimes there's people not to roll with at your school. There's 20 people here. It's nothing personal. He goes, it sucks, but I get it.
Yeah.
And so
the proximity alone, I mean, that's pretty compelling. You know, I mean, that's been a big determinant for me is just proximity. I lucked out with the level of training I get, but I mean,
that was part of my,
that's an issue.
When we built our house, where we were looking, I was like, we have to be less than 30 minutes from the kids' school, and we have to be less than 30 minutes from double five.
Yeah. Because
I don't want to train anywhere else.
Yeah.
I've been at tons of schools. I like Formiga. I trust him. And I'm naturally a trusting person, but I've developed myself enough and studied people enough to know that there's some traits that you're looking for.
Yeah.
And Formiga is...
You're talking character traits.
Character traits. Yeah, not skill. Even though skill unmatched, but there's plenty of good jiu-jitsu guys that I wouldn't want to be my coach.
I think Formiga will even tell you that skill's not enough. Actually, he's told me that. You know, like you could get all the world champions lined up in a row, and
he doesn't have the following he has because of his skill.
Yeah.
And people, I mean, it pays to be Formiga. The dude could just do seminars and make six figures.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I'm not going to quote his income, but he probably does make six figures on seminars, and he should.
Yeah.
But people aren't paying to go just because he's good. He's a great teacher, and he's a good leader. Like he's a good example of what the jiu-jitsu lifestyle should look like.
Yeah. I would tell anybody, like, I agree. I mean, look, Formiga has been a mentor to me since I've been out here. He got the itch going again. I mean, just being there to train in that environment has been huge to me. But, for anybody that wants to train or is looking to get back into it or whatever the case may be in our area or in any area, you need to find a person that you can relate to and that can teach you and whose information you could receive. Mm-hmm. I had some great teachers down in Florida, but it took me a while. Like I bounced around. I mean, it wasn't that I didn't have good training partners. It wasn't that I didn't have good, professors down there. South Florida was a hub for Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and it still kind of is. You get the Wagners of the world, Popoviches, you get Cyborg, all these guys that have just put out
world-class academies.
100%. Yeah, exactly. But if you're not getting what they're putting down, if you're not picking it up, then I mean, what good is it? They're not going to go out there and compete for you. They're not the ones that are going to go out there and, do belt test for you or whatever.
Right.
So, when you find something that's like that, no matter what the instructor's skill level is, I mean, recognize it for what it is, which is a golden nugget.
Yeah. If you're looking to get back into jiu-jitsu, you need to make sure that you find someone that is willing to actually coach you and not just be excited about a body on the mat.
Yeah, 100%. Not to take us too far, not to digress too much, but talk about somebody who's a good coach. I trained on Friday night. I trained at Paul's over in Argyle.
Okay.
And that was awesome.
Yeah.
I'd only really done the open mats like we would do on the weekends, which are kind of like, I wouldn't say secret, but they're a little, they're not a scheduled open mat or whatnot. And that was the first time I'd gone over there and watched him in action. I watched him with the kids class. He is a top-notch coach. And we'll get him on at some point. I don't know if he listens to these or not, but at some point I want to get on and hear his story.
Well, my kids train there for a reason. I mean, it's not because it's 9 minutes from my house. My kids wouldn't train if it was like I drive them over to Formiga's if I was really. Paul has got a gift for coaching kids.
Yeah, I noticed.
He genuinely enjoys it. Like
I got there early enough to watch, and you're right. He did. He seemed like he had a knack. It was awesome.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry, I once again digressed.
No, hey, Argyle Jiu-Jitsu, it's a great academy.
Argyle Jiu-Jitsu, yeah, exactly. And it is a double five?
Yeah, it's a double five.
Okay, cool. I can never tell. Okay, cool. So you're at Formiga's, you're getting little nuggets putting in your pocket. They're working.
And
you just get the itch.
And the rolls are awesome.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, I'll switch. And so I was like, okay, my twice a week is just going, I was able to ride my mountain bike there. I'd lift, ride my mountain bike over there.
Yeah, exactly. It's hard to turn that down.
Right. And I just rode home, I felt great. And half the guys there are fighting pro, if not more, because the day classes, either they own a school, they're pro fighters, and there's a handful of people that aren't on that level, maybe.
Yeah.
And in those guys are still really high level. And so I'm like, okay, I'll just keep training. And for me, it's like, why aren't you competing? And I'm like, I'm done. I'm old. and he's like, you mean you're old? I'm older than you. And he's competing all the time. And he talk about leadership through example. And I'm
100%.
like, well, there goes my excuse. And everybody else is competing. Hey, are you doing Dallas? Hey, are you doing Austin? Hey, are you doing Waco? Hey, are you doing this? And I'm like, no, like this is a hobby.
Yeah, exactly.
I want this to be a hobby, but you can't control the effect your atmosphere has on you.
Yeah.
Hang around a bunch of competitors, you're going to start competing. And in June of 21, I was a brown. He just gave me my brown. And
June of 21. Okay.
Yeah. So he gave me my brown in December. So this is 6 months after that.
Okay.
Gave me my brown in December. Huge. I mean, just first time I felt like.
Did you expect it? I mean, like I don't even know how to. I mean, the academy is relatively young, So I mean, like it's not like there's this well-established, cadence or anything.
Well, he was like, "Hey, are you gonna be at promotions?" And I was at the last one. I'm like, "Of course, I'm on a team. You bet." Mm-hmm. And he goes, "Okay, well, just make sure your family comes." And I was like, "Is that code for I'm getting promoted?" He's like, "Yeah, you're getting promoted." Like, okay,
that's cool.
That's cool. It was the first time I felt like I was overdue, and not because of anything other than I was finally getting better.
Yeah.
And so when I got it wasn't a surprise because I was doing really well. Like I felt really good.
Yeah. You're mid-30s at this point too. I mean, grappling arts have been a part of your life since you were in high school at least. Yeah, exactly.
So 20 years of off and on the mats, more on than off.
Yeah, it's a lifestyle at that point. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Definitely paid the dues.
Yeah. And they asked me to compete, and I was like, I hate tournaments. Like, I don't want to be there all day. I don't want to do all the tournament stuff.
Yeah.
He's like, well, what about fight to win? I was like, it looks fun. Mm-hmm. Not saying no. I mean, crowds don't bother me. I don't like crowds, but Like if I lose in front of a crowd, like what, they're going to do better? Like most of the people watching.
That's a good way to put it, actually.
Yeah,
what are you going to do better?
Yeah. It's like, hey, come on up here. Like you're good. And so that's the thing. It's like stage doesn't bother me because anyone in reverse roles suddenly becomes very hyper aware of how uncomfortable it is to be on stage.
That's an interesting way to put it.
Yeah. And so he offered, it's like, what about Fight to Wins? I know Seth, put your name in. I was like, okay. And so I applied. And then for me, he comes up to me. He's like, okay, this guy at 210 pounds. And I'm like, yes. Like I don't know who that is. Try to find him on Facebook. Can't find him.
Yeah.
And I'm like, guess I'm fighting on Friday. And it didn't hit me until that morning. I woke up, cleared my schedule for the day. And I'm stretching out. I went and got some drilling in. I went home and I'm getting ready to leave. And I look at Jenny. I'm like, crap, I'm fighting in front of a crowd tonight. Like there's people betting on me.
Holy crazy.
Holy
man.
smokes.
This is your first competition since the Blue Belt massacres and whatnot? Wow,
yeah.
That's crazy.
And yeah, I go and I don't know what to expect. And luckily there was a couple of other guys there. And for me, he's coaching like 20 dudes. So for me, I can't hold my hand.
Yeah.
And I get there by myself because I'm like, I'm not taking anybody. I don't know what to expect. And the warm-up room is like everybody together.
Oh, really? So you're with your competitor and stuff in there? Kind of like the bullpens, I suppose.
Yeah.
That is a little awkward.
There was a curtain. So there's a red mat and a blue mat with a little partition. But like...
Yeah, you're not going to be trading secrets or anything like that,
But you can still see the other mat. Like it was kind of dumb. Anyway, I get back there.
Is this in gi? No gi?
My first one was gi.
Okay.
My first one was gi. And I'm ready. Like I feel good. Like I'm like... With all the monsters on the double 5 mat, I'm not that worried.
Yeah. You're not one, too, that trains light. I mean, like, and I don't mean that in a bad way at all, but I mean, like, using myself as an example. I have a tendency to be lethargic on the mat. So that's the problem. I need guys like you. And it's not a personality issue. It's just that's been my rolling style. Like I'm not a wrestler by trade or whatnot. Yeah. So like I can
you would rather fight off your back.
If somebody will go slow with me, then awesome. I'll go slow. If somebody starts pushing the pace, then I need to work on stepping it up. But like your natural style is, dude, I'm getting it. I feel it when we lock up. I like, oh God, I'm rolling with Tristan again. I forgot. Yeah. My back hurts now. Well, and I just got snapped down. So I'm sure you're rolling hard and you're rolling hard. No question you're ready.
When I'm going to the pro classes, and that was one of the reasons for me, it's like, you're coming to the pro class, why aren't you competing? And I'm like, because I get my fix here. Like these guys are beating the hell out of me, or I'm beating the hell out of somebody. Like getting 9 rounds
battling and otherwise.
Right. Yeah. And anyway, I get there and I meet him. And the guy's like, he's eyeballing me. I could tell him like, okay, why? I think this is my opponent. I was like, you Kevin, and we meet. I'm like, oh. Nice guy. And his kids are there. And I'm like, all right, cool. Okay. This is not like, this guy's not trying to take my heel home with him. You know what I mean?
Right.
And we get on the mat, we bow in, and it's intense because, I mean, there's walkout music. They messed up my walkout song, which messed me up psychologically. I don't know why. It messed me up way worse than it should have.
Out of curiosity, what did you have and what did they give you?
So I don't know what they played, but it was supposed to be Frontline by Pillar.
Okay, I don't know it.
it's a Christian rock band, so I know the lyrics are clean.
Heavy, hard?
Yeah, it's heavy.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, it's guitar riffs, super corny.
I'm a fan.
And anyway, so I walk out. I'm like, okay, I guess this is what I'm walking out to. And I walk out, we shake hands, and we go, and he pulls. And I'm like, what the heck? You're not supposed to pull guard. Like, it's a submission only score set. And he pulls a Bravo grip, which is when you pull the lapel over the back of your head. And I'm like, oh, I've been here before. I'm fine. And like I'm shoving my head up under his chin, and he rubs the top of my head, and I smile. He smiles, and
nice.
And we scrap. I try to take his foot, my straight ankle, my one leg lock.
So that was an established move even back then.
Yes.
Okay.
And
good.
he took it. I'm belly down, arching, nothing, and I'm like,
jeez.
Like I thought I was good at this move. Like it really shook my confidence for a second. We got back to half guard, and I went for an arm, and his arm just went, and I'm like, oh, thank God, this is over. And he just took it. I'm like, all right. And I'm just being aggressive, doing just another roll.
Yeah.
Didn't choke, nothing. And I don't think he did either. He was fighting as hard as he could. And he attempted a couple of submissions at the beginning, like a couple arm bars and stuff with the Bravo grip. I just said no.
Yeah.
And so it went to decision. It was unanimous for me. And I was like, okay. And I think he was a little upset because I think he thought he was doing better than he was. And get done afterwards, and I was like, dude, how is your foot feeling? He's like, oh, dude, my feet are so flexible. Look, and he grabs his foot and like shows me, like pulling it up in front of him this way, and I'm like,
God, how bizarre.
Okay, so he's like, no, dude, it was really tight. I'm like, okay, as long as it was tight, we're good.
That's interesting, man, because I mean, it is anatomy. I mean, flexibility is one thing, but I mean, the tendon ends.
My wrist hurt. So
Really?
I
That's
knew
crazy.
I knew his leg had to hurt.
Yeah, and there's also bone in there too, man. That straight ankle lock is
Should have separated,
Yeah,
and it didn't.
You've gotten me on I don't know how many times.
Yeah, and
Almost today.
you wouldn't give it to me.
I felt it.
I'm gonna get it. Anyway, we got done, and I stayed for the rest of the fights, and I came home. I'm like, that was awesome. I'm totally doing that again. And I'm 4-1 and fight to win now. I applied for the 10th.
Dude, so, that's cool. That's awesome.
Should be my 6th.
Are these all no gi?
I've done combo. So my only loss was no gi, and it was against Ed Johnson, who was a brown belt 2 at the time. Mm-hmm. And I mean, my best pictures are from that fight because I got some great takedowns, good sub attempts. He just got the first big takedown. He grabbed my head and went for a guillotine. That was 5 points. And he got a Doris when I was in side control. That I literally remember just going, God, I prayed to not let me get submitted, and I'm not getting an answer to that prayer right now because it was
I fade into black.
Oh yeah, I was on a ride through the Cosmos and then noticed that I saw stage lights. I'm like, oh, we're still in. And
really, wow,
I was out.
Crazy.
And he didn't need to. And Ed, if you're listening to this, you got it. It was.
That's awesome.
I didn't tap. You totally had the choke, and you let go, and I was really happy you did. And anyway, he ended up getting the win. Oh yeah, we got the win, and he deserved it. It was a split decision, but like he got more. He knows that game. IBJJF rules are 12-2. If 2.
Yeah.
Like, does that make sense? Like,
yeah, no, for sure.
I did great. And
for sure.
Formiga was really happy with my performance. And if that's my only, I hope that still obviously stays my only loss, because if there's a way to lose, I want to lose when I feel really good.
Heck yeah, man. Heck yeah. I actually don't know much about how much you've competed, but I mean, I knew you did the fight to wins and whatnot because we've talked about that. Did you do any of the IBJJF stuff or any of the?
So I did Worlds in 21.
Worlds, Master Worlds, World Masters,
World Gi, no gi.
Okay.
No gi Worlds.
Okay.
In 21, and I should have done heavy.
The one that's here?
Yeah, it was in Garland.
Okay.
And I talked to Formiga and I was like, hey, should I jump right into a world championship? He's like, I wouldn't.
but you're Tristan.
But I think you'll be fine. I'm like, okay, I think I'll be fine. I'll do it. But if you advise me against it, I'm not telling you what I'm doing. I'm genuinely asking. He's like, no, do it. You'll learn a lot. I was like, okay, good. Mm-hmm. And signed up. First guy was from Brazil, which I don't know why that terrified me. Brown belts are brown belts. It doesn't matter where you're at. Yeah. But I think it was just because he flew internationally to be there. Yeah. And it's a single elimination. So like,
it tells you how meaningful it is to him, if nothing else.
Right. And so I'm like, okay, he's from Brazil. I got to bring my A game. And I was 205.
Okay.
206.
So you're heavy?
So I should have been heavy. I went super heavy.
Okay.
So I didn't want to cut. We had Summit that weekend before.
If you're a high school wrestler, notice that statement. I went up in weight class. It is possible.
Yes, you can do it, and you'll be okay. Because I was.
You'll be okay.
Now the problem is I was right in between weight classes naturally.
Yeah,
that's the issue. Is like, and I'm 210 right now.
That's kind of where I'm at too.
It's frustrating because
heavy and super heavy.
Everybody I go with super heavy, it's just they feel so big.
Yeah, Tunde.
And heavy feels like me.
Yeah,
like they feel normal, but I'm not. I'm a little too big. Anyway, I go my first match, I tie up with the guy, and I immediately feel the size difference. It's like, oh gosh. Felt like Tunde, which is like just a tree.
Yeah, just get bench pressed everywhere you go.
Well, and I shot in for an ankle pick, and it felt like I was trying to pull weeds. Like, so I get side control, got some good pictures, I won. And then my next match was a guy from Massachusetts. And I was late, so it messed me up psychologically. Like we slapped on, sorry for being late, before we tied up. Like, so I wasn't in the game. Oh yeah. It just because they moved the time up really, really fast. Okay. I just wasn't used to. Haven't been in a tournament in 7 years at that point.
Yeah. We could have a whole maybe we should even have a whole podcast on just like prep.
Yeah.
I
wasn't prepped.
Like it's so.
I wasn't ready. We had a conference the weekend before in St. Louis. Mm-hmm. I got back. I got a couple of days of training in. Took my kids to school Thursday morning. Prior to it and up to class because I just noticed I wasn't on the week before. Something like my head wasn't in the game. Yeah. I did camp. Camp helped. But like tournament, I wasn't mentally there.
Yeah.
And so he slaps my leg and I'm like, oh, I'm going to sprawl on him hard. I'm ready for it. And he just picks up my leg. I'm like, where did that come from? Takes me down, passes my guard, Kimura, done. Like it was, I don't want to say embarrassing because like I didn't do anything. He ended up winning, which makes me feel a little bit better. And I watched the finals match going, I could have done so much better. He wasn't that much better than me. Mm-hmm. But That was my last tournament. I might do Dallas.
Yeah, you should, man.
Yeah.
I mean, I actually didn't, I learned something totally new. I mean, I didn't realize you took that long off the competition scene because, like I've said this before, at the risk of being redundant, you come in and out of people's lives at different points of time. And like when you and I met, you were already doing the fight to wins and whatnot. I knew you had this college wrestling background and stuff, but I didn't realize the gap in between. You are, as a part of your business, you're bringing a lot of people up with you. And part of getting a little Tristan time is also getting a little jiu-jitsu time. So for anybody that knows Tristan,
the easiest way to access me is on the mat.
You want to get a little time, then slap a gi on.
Yeah, everyone wants to work out with me, and I'm like, I don't like working out with people. But I love wrestling.
Yeah, exactly. And it's a person sport, so come on out. So you got a lot of white belts that are around you, either in the gym, where we normally train, or people that are in your business that are coming up.
Yep.
What would you tell one of those guys that wanted to compete? Compete, don't compete. I mean, not everybody is a college wrestler.
I was about to say,
right?
I don't think everybody needs to compete to enjoy jiu-jitsu. Yeah. I think that competitors should compete, and people who have no interest in competing should stop feeling pressured to compete.
Yeah.
You remember we were at Origin Camp, and they said, hey, who regularly competes?
Yeah, I do remember
Few people
that.
raise their hand. Who's ever competed? Everybody raised
Well,
their
first
hands.
of all, go back. We had 300 people or so in the room, and then
a lot of people.
And then he put a few attriting questions up there, and I think it was who in here actually has competed. And it was probably, what would you say, like half the room, maybe a good bit of people had done a competition. And then the next one was like who regularly competes. And then a couple more attritters after that, like kind of the level that you were competing at. Mm-hmm. And it was left with like Formiga and a few, I mean, not just Formiga, but I mean, there was like
not many,
right?
Yeah.
I mean, so clearly.
So, if you're a white belt and your coach is like, you need to compete, you do. At some point, it's a life experience that I think everybody should have to be in front of a crowd exercising your skill set. I think if you start jiu-jitsu even later in life, let's say you start in your 30s or you start in your 40s, maybe even your 50s, you're not competing against people who are unmatched. Like the beauty of, I'd say, at least jiu-jitsu, wrestling's different, but jiu-jitsu, it's the same skill, age, and weight. Like it's you against you every time anyway, but now it's really you against you. It's you against what you should be beating.
Yeah.
The person who worked harder on their skill set is going to end up winning.
Yeah.
It's whoever put in more time before or psychologically when they're there, maybe. But I think everybody should compete at least once. But I don't think everybody needs to be a competitor. Yeah. If that makes sense.
No, that does make a lot of sense. I think it also is about like not establishing like predisposed limitations before you even start. And that was a kind of a trap that I fell into, especially, I wouldn't say as I got older, because you just naturally get older, but as I got a little bit further along, I was like, I'm not really a competitor. And I just kind of let that define me. And then
I don't think that's healthy either.
I don't either. It wasn't. It ended up not being healthy. And a little bit about the atmosphere that we were in. We had a lot of people competing, and I was like, well, maybe I should, and I actually really enjoyed it, so whether or not I stick with it and do it long term, I plan to, but I don't feel like I have to,
Yeah, that's the thing is I think that I'm not a competitor. It's a cop out and it's you're stealing valuable life experience from yourself if you don't go compete, because most people don't compete not because they're not competitive, but because they're scared.
Yeah.
They don't want to lose.
It's true.
And
in front of your friends,
in front of your friends,
family.
And you don't want to be doing something for 3 years, 5 days a week for an hour and a half at a time. And your whole lifting schedule was surrounded around jiu-jitsu movements, and you're doing mobility work, and you're studying YouTube videos, and you have this obsession, and then you go 0-1. It's single elimination.
Yeah.
Like you've just spent $10,000 on tuition and privates and supplements and all that stuff. I can understand. I can understand why you don't want to compete.
Yeah.
But when you go lose, you still went out there. You beat everybody 100%. On the couch. Your self-image should still be high. Now, I came home from Worlds with the 3rd place medal. I literally have a world medal. And I'm walking around like a kid who just got his dog run over. And Jenny's like, what is wrong with you?
You're on the podium, dude.
You're number 3 in the world. You made the podium. Why are you upset? I'm like, I lost. 3rd place isn't winning. And she's like, didn't you win to get that?
Weirdo, man.
I'm just wired weird. And I literally was like, I'm like, but it's 3rd. I'm like, I'm not even number 2. I'm not even good at losing. The number 2 is the number 1 loser. I'm like, I can't even lose well. I'm such a pity party. And
Did you have to fight back hard to get even? I mean,
no,
sometimes
third means you lost. So there's 2/3 in every bracket.
Okay.
Luckily, there was an either even or odd where there wasn't another third place. So IBJJF is weird. They go first, second, third. Because they don't want to. Well, because it's so much work to do consolation brackets.
Yeah, you'd be there. Oh my God, you'd be there forever.
Yeah. So instead of giving a third and a fourth place, it's a third and third.
I gotcha. Okay.
And yeah, so long story, whatever odd number was or even number was where there was another person on the podium.
On the bracket, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I think there was 8 in that division.
Pretty healthy.
Which, I mean, I was looking forward to the other matches.
Yeah.
And, yeah, all said and done, I'm glad I did it. I now know what an IBJJF tournament operates like. I might do Dallas. I just like the fight to wins, you show up.
It's a big deal. It's a big stage.
It's a big stage.
Yeah.
Like, all the bang for your buck. And it's one match. It's one night. I know exactly what's going on. And so I'm not saying I won't do another tournament. I'm just not eager to.
Gotcha. That's cool. I can see that. So moving on. Eventually, and we knew this day was going to come. I mean, you felt ready. I'm pretty sure, and I've rolled with you several times as a brown belt, and I think a lot of people were kind of like wondering if this day was going to get here soon enough. But the honor was bestowed upon you as a black belt here recently. I guess, gosh, it's coming up in like 4 or 5 months or 3 months or whatever.
It was December.
Was it December? Okay,
it was December.
Geez. All right. Well, maybe
November.
I think it was November. It was weird. It was. I remember I was out of town and
I'm curious.
I missed it. I think it was November.
I feel like it's November.
Gosh, it might have even been October.
It was November. No, it was November because. But what's cool? So I got my black belt that morning. My mentor flew in that evening. Joe came in and talked at my team meeting.
Oh, cool.
It was in the same day.
Did you wear your black belt?
I almost did. I almost did.
You should.
It was definitely
dude.
November.
That's cool. That's cool. I'm sorry I missed it. I really am. Like
You're in
a lot
Ireland.
of you guys. I was out of the country, unfortunately. Talk a little bit about that. I mean, for you in particular, I mean, how long have you been training at that point?
Long time.
Yeah.
So I started my first jiu-jitsu class. It was either December 04 or December 05. I can't figure it out off the top of my head. And so at least, I mean, it's coming up, it's close to 20 years. And most people get their black belt within 10. I mean, I say most, if they're consistent. If they're consistent.
2 years about.
I mean, like everyone talks about BJ Penn getting it in 3, but I'm like, he was training 8 hours a day, 6 days a week in Brazil. Like he put his life on pause to learn jiu-jitsu.
He's a bit of an outlier. I mean, it's not crazy.
But, no one gets their black belt like that. And I remember going, I don't want to name the school because I don't want to make them, I don't want to be deprecating to anybody. But I remember there was a school where it was very obvious those black belts got them very fast.
Oh, really?
I was a blue, and I X-guard, swept, took the ankle, got tapped. We got back up, a Sotogari, arm bar. And I mean, I don't want to be braggadocious, but I'm tuning the guy up.
Yeah.
And he's like, "You're not a blue belt." And I'm like, I can't promote myself, bro. He's like, "How long have you been rolling?" And at that point, I had my blue belt forever. It was like 10 years. And he says, "Oh, I've only been training for 5." I'm like, "Exactly."
Wow.
Now, in my head, my response was, "How did you get your black belt in 5 years?"
Yeah.
Right.
Seems like a quick turn.
It's a quick turn.
Yeah.
And I think the arbitrariness of the black belt makes it very weird. But I mean, it says in the Psalms that our steps are ordered, and I'm incredibly grateful that my steps got ordered to get it from Formiga.
Yeah.
So I wanted to get it from someone that I had a lot of respect for.
Yeah.
And if the timing was different, or if I forced it, or if I really tried to manipulate it, I would have ended up getting it from somebody that I didn't have as much respect for as Formiga.
Yeah.
Because if I got it from Paul, if I got it from Kyle, I mean, they're incredible jiu-jitsu. I mean, they're great people. Would have been great. But I've just got a higher level of respect for Formiga than most people. So this isn't a slight on any of them.
Yeah.
But I mean, the lineage is pretty cool.
Yeah. What was it like? I mean, did you know, or was it a surprise, or how did this?
So I was trying not to ask.
Yeah.
And I knew promotions. They announced promotions, and I made sure I was here.
Yeah.
Because I had a feeling. Because it's been 2 years. I won a lot.
Yeah, you have a successful fight to win record. Most people have a 0-0 fight to win record, right? That's mine.
Or 0-1. They did 1 and they lost, and so they didn't reapply.
To me, that's noteworthy in itself. I mean, if you get up there once, I mean, but 5 in a row plus a big podium, moment.
In Worlds,
even though you were,
international competition,
doing a Trail of Tears outside of the.
I'm supposed to be at the top.
Yeah, don't talk to me today, Jenny. I'm mad.
My little temper tantrum.
That's funny.
But
anyway.
Anyway, so you announced the thing. I made sure I was in town, and I just and I messaged them about 2 or 3 months prior when Worlds were coming up because I had applied for Worlds, I signed up or whatever.
Yeah.
And I just messaged him. I'm like, I don't have any desire to be the best brown belt in the world. Like I did Nogi Worlds. I felt like I did great. I don't want to do it half-assed.
Yeah.
Like I don't want to go as a double 5 guy and lose.
Yeah.
And I know if I don't want the podium, I'm going to lose. Like I'm going to give up something during one of those fights because it's not Bulldog.
Yeah.
Like,
You're just not feeling it.
Not feeling it.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to go to Vegas. I went to camp because it was supposed to be right after camp.
That's right. I remember that. I was supposed to go as well. And
you got injured.
Yeah.
Well, and that's why I messaged Formiga right before we went to camp. I'm like, hey, I don't want it that bad. Is there something wrong with me? Because every other brown belt's like, I want to be the best brown belt in the world. I'm like,
yeah.
Outside of the jiu-jitsu community, no one even thinks that's noteworthy, despite the fact in the that's hundreds, if not thousands of people you've outperformed. I mean, it's a huge accomplishment.
It's hard to explain that to people that don't.
Right. Because like Stefan Banta just won all of the stuff at Brown. He's the most successful brown belt in the history of the sport so far. I mean, massive accomplishment. Outside, but he's not a black belt though. It's like you don't understand. Like he would tune up most black belts. He tunes me up.
Yeah.
And he's like, golly, I've been training since he was like 5. You know what I mean? Like he's only been training it, I think 4 or 5 years. Anyway, I was like, I'm going to wait to compete until I'm a black belt again. Like if a pro fight gets offered and then Submission Hunter Pro asked, like, I think I applied months back and I agreed, and then I got promoted and I was like, hey, I'm a black belt now. Probably not a good idea.
Yeah.
And it was really cool because it was the accumulation. It was someone else acknowledging that I'm a master of my craft now, not just really good at it.
Yeah.
And in my adult life, like how many times does that even happen?
Yeah.
Where someone admits that you're not only a professional, but you're an expert.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
It's so weird. Like in the academy, we had, you, James, Trey, Kramer, Tunde. We were due. I mean, like this was the first big black belt promotion we'd had since Double Five US, really. Other than the podium promotions and whatnot that we've talked about. But it was interesting because people started showing up. Tristan walks in, he's got a black belt. James walks on the mat, he's got a black belt. Yet we still train. What was different? I mean, you came back on Monday, you got a black belt. I mean, do you feel different? I mean, it is the culmination.
It is the culmination, and you think you would, but I mean, and I could be speaking out of turn. Maybe all the other black belts think differently, but it was even more, I won't say humbling. I don't know what the feeling is. I end up sitting when we're doing our warm-ups in the same spot because I have to pass all the black belts.
That's right. You were kind of like a senior brown belt and then kind of
now I'm like a junior black belt.
Now you're the noob.
Right. And I mean, Isaac is a purple and he just racked up 6 points on me.
Yeah.
Like it's really cool outside of the jiu-jitsu community to finally have some validation for all the time and money and sweat and blood and rehab and all the stuff you have to do to even stay in this lifestyle.
It's a good way to put it.
Yeah, it's nice to know that I can just say, I have a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and everyone's like, ooh. Because if you say you have a brown belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, what's the scale again? Like, is that close to the top? Is that almost done?
How does it go?
Yeah, exactly. Well, and that's the thing is
Did
people
you
think
get your black belt?
Well, because most kids, when they get their black belt in karate or taekwondo, they stop.
Yeah,
because they hit the top.
Quick progression as well.
I mean, I don't know any Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belts who stop.
Yeah,
like even if they do, it's because life happened, not because they wanted to. It wasn't like, oh, okay, that's all I was after. Because by the time you get it, most professors are pretty confident you're going to keep training or else they wouldn't give it to you.
Yeah. I feel sorry for guys. Like you're right. For most people, you, at least from what I've seen anyway, you get your black belt and you're back on Monday,
Yeah.
But man, if you found yourself in a life situation where you needed to put the black belt away for a little while and then come back, gosh, man, what a tough road that would be.
Well, because then you lose the same it's depreciating skill
it's
set.
So hard. Yeah. I mean, like I remember when I came back just as a purple belt, I wanted to have like a sign, like I took time off. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like I just wanted to kind of like put a little qualifier on that. I can only imagine like the higher up you go, the more difficult it is.
Well, and if you're wondering, yes, everybody comes at you way harder when you get your black belt.
Right?
Even if you're normal training partners, like even if you've rolled 4 times that week with the same guy, like the transition, like no one lets me off anymore.
Yeah,
like no one's gonna.
There's nothing to lose. Yeah, exactly. Tristan's black belt. Like what?
Why would I go easy?
Yeah, what do I got to lose? Yeah, exactly. It's for him to worry about. I guess people are also kind of coming up with you. Like you and I trained brown, purple. I got my brown same time you get your black, and so I mean, like I imagine people are kind of coming up along the lines with you. But like for that new college wrestler that's coming in with the shiny blue belt, he's like, nope, Tristan's mine. Yes. Hey, I'm gonna get
and that's
all
the
these
thing
guys,
is they want to beat the black belt.
Yeah, of course, man. man. It's an honor to roll with the black belt.
And I remember when I was a blue belt, when I was tuning up black belts, I was, I tuned up the black belt. But looking back, I'm like, who cares? Like, that's not an accomplishment.
Yeah, exactly. I'm sure you're given a lot as well along the way. So you're moving on to some kind of perspective type questions. And first, before we even get into that, we talked a lot about balance already, but you also do a lot of cross training. And I remember when we were at Origin, I don't remember if it was this year, it might've been the one that I was at before that, but I mean, kind of unanimously across the board, guys that had been training for years and years and years had made the comment that, like, when asked what I would do different in my training progression, it wasn't that I would train jiu-jitsu more, I would show up for 2 classes a day. It's that I would incorporate other elements of training into it, such as XXX. It could be a lot of different things. For you do, why don't you just talk a little bit about your training regimen?
Sure.
Because you do a good job of mixing things up. How do you prioritize that?
Yeah. So I like to think that I'm well conditioned, not the best conditioned, but I'm not going to get a lot of curveballs metabolically. You know what I mean? Or strength. Like, I want my body to be ready for what I'm doing.
Yeah, you've deadlifted me a few times.
But what I want to see more of, right? What I want to see more of is people maintaining their bodies like their cars. Like, you don't go much further than the recommended mileage for your oil change, yet people will skip workouts all the time thinking, well, jiu-jitsu is my workout. And I just don't see jiu-jitsu as my workout. I see jiu-jitsu as training. I see my workouts as workouts. And so I do mobility work and I do strength training. Okay. And strength training, metabolic training, I mean, I kind of combine them. Because I have a background. So, I mean, like, you've got
almost
kind of 20 years of experience.
Already. Yeah, exactly.
I got 20 years of experience, hundreds of textbooks in my brain. So there's no real reason that I need to really look for outsourced stuff. But I use an app for both my workouts and my mobility work to make it. Secret to success in anything is to make bad habits hard to do and good habits easy to do. And I wanted workouts and mobility works to be brainless, just like brushing my teeth. Like, it's just part of my routine.
Making bad habits hard to do, good habits easy to do.
Yep,
I like it.
And same thing with jiu-jitsu. Like, the reason I can train so much isn't because I'm so free. I am free, but I'm also a father of 4. I've got a large business I can easily get overwhelmed by. Yeah. And I mean, I can also entertain myself to death. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, I could watch way more TV. I could listen to way more music. I could travel way more. Yep. But I just priorities before pleasures. And fitness is a priority for me so I can enjoy my jiu-jitsu, so I can enjoy playing with my kids, so I can enjoy having fun with my wife. Because I've been fat. I wasn't really all that deconditioned, but I was fat and life was harder. Like, sleep sucked. Like, I didn't sleep well. I didn't feel good. Yeah. And when I'm not well conditioned and well taken care of, everything's harder. Yeah. And it's easier to do hard more frequently than to have everything be slightly harder.
So will you train jiu-jitsu 5 days a week? Is that kind of your thing?
So
you're a noon class guy,
noon
right?
class
and that
guy.
Works for your schedule well.
It works for my schedule, my body, like my hormones, and like, just, I'm better in the afternoons. Yeah. I'm not good at night. I don't like working out at night. I don't like rolling at night.
Yeah, same here.
Fight to wins are obviously way late in the evenings because it's a party and people are betting and people are drinking and having a good time. So I take a nap and I wake up and I stretch and I'm like, it's basically like I'm hitting the reset button in the evening. So it's like my afternoon when I get to the evening.
So I don't, would you consider strength training and your flexibility and mobility training a supplement to your training, or is it just a part of your lifestyle?
If I do jiu-jitsu, I have to be lifting.
Okay. And so how many days a week are you doing mobility work and strength work?
I mean, just a week snapshot. So Monday, if I wasn't traveling the night before, which is most of the time, I don't travel. I travel a lot compared to people who work regular jobs, but I don't travel that much. Yeah. Monday morning, I'll wake up, have an excess energy drink, read my Bible, take some pre-workout, some aminos, go do CrossFit type workouts. So snatches with 95 pounds on the barbell.
This is coming from your app?
Yeah, it's coming from my app. And then toe to bars, 21, 15, 9, 6, 3.
Okay. That's a hypothetical workout.
Yeah. So and done. So like 20 minutes, 30 minutes. Get in my car, drive to 555, do the cold stretching because Formiga's really high on it and you don't argue with Formiga. Yeah. And we do a drill and then I get at least 5 rounds in.
Cold stretching. I just got,
And everyone starts stretching. We're like, why are we stretching? But it's just what we've done. Yeah. And you don't fight it. Yeah. And before we go to bed, my wife and I do our mobility work together. So we roll out 2 big foam mats and they're Dolomer mats. The app used to be called ROMWAD. Now it's Pliability. I probably made them tens of thousands of dollars by recommending them because I recommend it to everybody because it's dummy proof. There's a routine for every day. You click it, it's 20 minutes, or it's the quick routine, which is 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And
you've got 10 minutes. I mean, give me a break.
It's before bed. Like, just like you're going to sleep better, you're going to feel better.
Yeah.
And like, we didn't do it last night, and we both woke up like, well, I can't believe we didn't do it. What's wrong with it? Like, it's kind of like forgetting to brush your teeth. Like, you're not going to get a cavity one night.
Yeah.
But you feel gross in the morning.
No, good analogy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I know you know this, but I mean, most people are not going to prioritize 5 strength training workouts, 5 mobility workouts, and 5 hours of jiu-jitsu or more. Today we trained for 2 hours. I mean, we were there from 12 to almost 2.
12 to, I was about to say, my last round was done about 1:30.
Yeah, and I mean, I think we all would have kept training, but I mean, people just needed to go on with the day. It is the middle of the day.
Yeah.
Those real white belts that you're bringing along with you that are looking to get a little bit of time with you and whatnot, they're probably in that category of I can't allocate this much time to your life. What kind of guidance would you give them? I mean, you want to get jiu-jitsu in. I want jiu-jitsu to be a part of my life, but maybe it's not everything. I mean,
do what you can where you're at with what you have. Anybody can do some push-ups, squats, and sit-ups in the morning when they first wake up. Anybody can stretch before bed, and anybody can go to 2 days a week of jiu-jitsu. I mean, you don't have to have barbells and pull-up bars and all that stuff, which it's better too. Like, you can brush your teeth with a conventional toothbrush or a sonic hair. Still brushing your teeth. You can shower in a big fancy shower with a loofah and all this stuff, or you can use bar soap and a garden hose. Like, either way, it's going to work. Like, I feel like showering for me is garden hose because it's ice cold. And
I think that's a heating issue right now.
it was brisk. I felt like
you showered there, dude. You could have come over here and showered. I said yes.
I know.
Look, I just got a towel ready for you, man.
We were done. I looked at the clock. I'm like, I don't want to wait, and so I just went ahead and showered.
Okay, got it.
Anyway, the average person just needs to move more. And if you get with somebody who's got even a mediocre fitness level, they can give you some tips. And what I would recommend for anybody who's starting jiu-jitsu, which obviously dominant group on this, it's just getting started. Like, when you get there, do some push-ups. Like, just push-ups and squats are 2/3 of your motor chains. And if you can get a pull-up bar somewhere, I can't even do 2 pull-ups. Like, do 2 pull-ups. Like, do what you can with what you have where you're at. You'll get better. I mean, there's no reason you shouldn't be strong, fit, and able to do a combat sport. Yeah. I don't think there's a good reason not to.
Yeah. But I mean, I know right now you've got a setup where you've got a really good community gym. I mean, you're walkable to I don't know if you'd call it world-class gym, but certainly
it's world-class.
Certainly
it's really nice.
A very suitable gym. Did you have that? I mean, you moved into that house 2 years ago. Did you have that before that? Did you have anything at the house?
I had a lifetime membership.
Okay, yeah.
And no, we didn't.
Any home gym or anything like that?
Had a pull-up bar.
Okay, cool.
And so, I mean, my routine, because I used to work, I mean, I was in the fitness industry, so I never lacked access to a fitness facility.
True. Yeah, it's a little bit different.
And you can get a Planet Fitness membership for $10. You can get a Gold's Gym membership for $20 a month. And if you're paying $180 a month for jiu-jitsu, what's $20 more?
Yeah, no, it's true.
To have access to whatever fitness equipment you need for your needs.
Yeah.
And I wish that, and I think for me is looking for a place to maybe put some CrossFit equipment in the facility, because that's one thing that Jocko's place has is it's a combo.
Yeah.
And at the UFC gym, it was brilliant. Like, we had mats and we had fitness equipment. So I work out and do it all in one spot. Yeah. And that's optimal. Like, if you can consolidate it, do 20 minutes of high intensity metabolic conditioning with some resistance training integrated, and go right into your jiu-jitsu, I think for your nervous system, for recovery, for not consolidating, what's the word? Compartmentalizing your fitness and jiu-jitsu all into one little spot. Because I'm financially independent, retired early. Like, I have lots of time. Yeah. I can do what I want when I want with who I want for as long as I want. Most people don't have that luxury. True. And now I earned it.
You do have responsibilities though. I mean, you have to fit this in with everything else. Pretty busy life. I mean, I've been to your house, man. You got a lot of stuff going on.
It's chaos. And it's priorities. And my priority is to make sure I don't think I get 120. How many big old guys do you know? Not many. Yeah. You see little old guys, right? Like, little dogs live a long time. Big dogs don't. Yeah. And so, like, I'm not small. Like, I don't have 120 years. I'm probably going to get 80 or 90 at best. I don't want them to suck. And the way that I've noticed most people deteriorate is because they stop making fitness a priority.
Yeah.
And I'm watching my dad have a ton of health challenges right now, and it's irritatingly all lifestyle based.
Yeah.
Like, and I'm not saying people
diet and stuff like that.
Yeah. I mean, his dominant macronutrient is sugar.
Yeah.
And it's really frustrating to watch because like I'm just gonna have one more cookie, just one cookie. I'm like, no, you need to sugar fat, like hit the reset button. And that's most people. It's just they eat themselves to death.
Yeah. We talked a lot about the white belt. And I mean, honestly, some of those white belts that I'm talking about, I mean, they're real people, right? That are kind of hanging around you and getting on the mats. I'm going to guess that some of them aren't going to be white belts for much longer, you know? So you get into that mode, you kind of lived through this where you had the start stops as a color belt. And a lot of people do. I mean, like, it's just weird that I've had a lot of people that are on the podcast so far that have just had a really successful jiu-jitsu journey and that make that a profession for themselves. But a lot of times there are start stops along the way. I mean, when you get to that level, you get a little bit of age, you get more, career responsibilities. Injuries. Yeah. Little nagging injuries that keep you going. Any advice that you'd offer up for folks that are kind of, maybe not going through that exact thing, but that want to make this a long-term gig.
Yeah.
And, are maybe facing a little discouragement or some real just issues, getting the time in.
Yep. So my younger boys, so I have girl, boy was the order we had our kids, and they both train. And I keep telling them, jiu-jitsu will always be there. Like, it's not going anywhere. It's not a lifestyle that people are going to just stop doing.
Yeah.
It's been almost 100 years at this point. Like, it's going to keep there. It's going to stay. And if you're a white belt or a blue belt or a purple belt or even a brown belt who had to take a hiatus, like, it's just like a surfboard. My belt's like my surfboard. I never surfed. I didn't surf. I probably couldn't if I wanted to at this point, just mechanically. I just don't want to learn. And
stubborn.
I'm stubborn. But I imagine it's like surfboard, like surf culture. Like, you don't just, it's a bicycle maybe. I don't know. Like, it's there. Like, pick it back up.
Yeah.
And it's a season. Like, you're not always going to be this busy.
Yeah.
Like, when my kids were young, Jenny was on bed rest a lot while she was pregnant. Like, that was a season. And now that we're in this new season. And then when my kids are teenagers, you're in that season. Like, it's a season. Like, your kids aren't, your oldest has moved out now. Like, it's a season. Like, you're not going to be either that busy or that free.
Yeah.
For long. And that's the reason I did that first competition in 2015. I was hyper aware because I'd read a lot of books, and there's two ways to get wisdom, mistakes or mentors.
Yeah. And
just the mentors I'd associated with just kind of made me hyper aware of the seasons in my life. And so I was like, okay, well, this is a season where I can, so I should. And something, if you're training, whether you're a committed competitor or a seasonal hobbyist, like, there's seasons where, like, if it's available, go. And that's what I think most people miss, is that even when it is able to be put in the schedule, they don't.
Yeah.
And that's
prioritization.
It's a prioritization. And drives Jenny nuts because, I mean, hell hath no fury like a woman scorned for jiu-jitsu if she doesn't train, right? And Did
Jenny train?
No. I took her to one class. She hated it. Ooh, it's so gross. Everyone sweats on you. She hated it. And she's not aggressive. She doesn't have a combative bone in her body.
Yeah, yeah.
Adeline, my second daughter's like that. Like, just sweet. I married Snow White, and it duplicated in my second daughter.
That's funny.
Michaela, my oldest, has her black belt in Taekwondo. She loves jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, she's a
real aggressive.
Yeah. Incredibly cerebral, too. I mean,
golly. Scary smart.
Yeah, no, you have amazing kids.
But anyway, so, like, if there's an opportunity, so, like, today, like, I didn't lift. I just got back late. I was like, okay, I need to sleep more than I need to lift, but I'm going to go to jiu-jitsu because I have it available. Yeah. And so if I'm in town and I don't have any other commitments, I got my 3 J's, Jesus, Jenny, jiu-jitsu. Like, those are my priorities. And I have 4 major priorities in my life. And if I keep my priorities in order, jiu-jitsu fits in fine. If jiu-jitsu becomes too big, my other priorities start getting out of whack, my jiu-jitsu suffers. And on the flip side, if I don't have jiu-jitsu there, I'm more out of balance. Yeah. At this point in my life, because I mean, most of my cognitive life that I can remember, I've been wrestling. There's been some outlet for my aggression. Yeah. And if you look at it from a prioritization standpoint, I've got my creator. If I'm too busy for God, I'm too busy. I've got my family commitments. I've got my civic commitments, and I got my business commitments. And so if those are being met, I deserve jiu-jitsu. But if those aren't being met, I don't deserve jiu-jitsu. But why aren't they being met? Probably because I'm out of balance. I mean, I think the biggest misconception that most people have is that they need to be comfortable to be balanced. And I find the most balance when I'm the most uncomfortable.
Interesting.
So
yeah, interesting. I mean, once again, I mean, like that, those have been some thoughts that I've been going through recently as well, is that like, look, I've found myself with more free time than I've ever had, not ever had, but I mean, like in a mode where the pressure has come off a little bit. And to be honest, while that's great for a short period of time, I'm with you, man. I mean, sometimes it's just, you just need to put the throttle back up, you know, cause that's where I thrive,
Everybody does.
Yeah.
See, people think, I don't thrive well in chaos. No, you don't like discomfort. Big difference.
Yeah.
We're anti-fragile. Are you familiar with the term?
No.
So I read a book called The Coddling of the American Mind, Why Bad Ideas Are Setting This Generation Up for Failure. Well-intentioned ideas. It talks about the safe spaces and what the colleges did. And it's just, we put ourselves...
well-intentioned. I get
well-intentioned ideas.
I see how it could work.
Right.
Yeah.
But we're anti-fragile, meaning we do poorly when treated as fragile. Mm-hmm. Like we need to be treated as if we're not fragile.
Yeah.
And the term they use in the book is anti-fragile. Like you're the opposite of fragile. Like you actually need to be banged up to be good.
Yeah.
And if you look at just our physicality, like we have 605 muscles that atrophy as soon as they stop being used. We have a cognitive system. The mechanics of our brain need to be used to stay healthy. Like Alzheimer's is on the rise because entertainment has been on the rise. Amusement, without muse. Thinking without thinking, that's amusement. And we've never had this much access to entertainment. It's no wonder why cognitive health is in rapid decline. People are getting Alzheimer's in their 70s now. Like 30, 40 years ago, that was unheard of. Think about it. Old people when you were young were sharp.
Yeah.
This whole everybody's having problems is because we have these big giant rectangles glowing at us and we're just like zombies.
Yeah.
Our
or
brains
these little tiny rectangles glaring at us probably.
I mean, you can't go to a restaurant now without multiple TVs.
Yeah, that's an issue. I noticed that when we were at, as you know, we were at a big, huge wrestling event over the weekend, and Nalco and I both felt this way, man. At the end, first of all, I mean, it's intense to begin with, but like what I felt like was just sensory overload because all of the iPads and iPhones that were going, where it's just become like, first of all, there's probably an argument there, should you even have the speaker on or not? But there was just all of this stuff coming at me. I'm like, I need a break. Like I need to get back to the hotel and just shut the curtain for a while.
And that's the problem is that we're so desensitized to it now that most of those kids don't get a break.
Yeah.
The only time they get a break is when they're unconscious. From when they wake up, they reach over and this little rectangle's glowing in their face till when they go to bed. Yeah. And all the science has shown that it's terrible for our brains. Yeah. Just the organ itself, let alone the psychological side of it, just the mechanical side of it, it's depreciating.
Yeah. You mean in just like lack of activity?
Right.
Yeah. Interesting. And I mean, like finding a way to prioritize jujitsu, you can find a way to prioritize anything that you want to, especially over the long term.
Right.
And that's actually really good advice for anybody that's lacking a little bit of time on the mat and wants to get back at it. Shifting gears just a little bit, long time on the mats for you. I mean, going back to 2000, whatever it was, 2002, 2003, 2004, and then wrestling, well before that.
Yeah. I started wrestling in the late 90s. I think 99 or 98 was my first time wrestling. I can't remember. So if I was 15, I was born in 84. So it's 15 years after that. Yeah, 99. 99 was my first time ever wrestling. Maybe
once
2000.
Again, I probably should be able to do that, man.
Yeah, I think 2000. So
yeah,
new millennium, new wrestling.
If I wasn't going to have a career change after not being able to do math, I probably will get forced into one. Seriously though, on we don't have many belt changes, right? We're talking about, some of the honors of you being promoted over to black belt and whatnot, but that's what, 3, 4, 5 belts. That's a long time though through there.
Yeah.
While you were out there, did you have times where belt change, no belt change, where you either felt like you were plateauing in your training?
Absolutely.
What was, how did you get out of that rut? I know I've been there and have struggled to kind of find my way out.
It was purple. So I was a purple belt. I had good takedowns, but not great takedowns.
It's surprising to hear for, from what I know about you and from what your background is.
Yeah. So I remember distinctly I had one at purple and I was at Formigas and I thought I had a game. Yeah. But when I started going with these really high level competitors, my game was neutralized.
I see.
Like anything that used to work just didn't work anymore.
Yeah. What was your game? I mean, you would take down, dominate on top, and
exactly
crush people?
It was literally, it was a good takedown, they'd attempt a submission. I'd pass. I'd mount. I'd submit.
Okay, been there.
That's all I did
from you.
And when you go against someone who wants you to be on top, it messes you up because everybody else I'd rolled with essentially didn't want me to be there. Yet these people were fine with giving me a takedown. Like they didn't care. They'd always sweep me. And so now I'm on my back. I have okay stuff. At the time, I had okay stuff on my back, but I had nothing to really threaten them with.
Yeah.
And I was talking to Formiga.
Weird guards too.
Yeah. Oh, like someone put me in a worm guard for the first time in purple, and I'm like, "What is going on?
Yeah,
like, why am I
stop doing that?"
Well, it was Dan Dykeman. Okay, he just got his black belt from Lovato, I think, and he put me in a worm guard. I'm like, "What is happening right now? Why am I immobilized? What is this voodoo you're doing to me?"
Let go of that.
And it made me hyper aware of how much I still didn't know, even though I had been on the mat a long time. Because I mean, combined wrestling and that much jiu-jitsu at that point, and beating up a lot of black belts. Looking back now that I'm a black belt was stupid to even use as a point of reference.
Yeah.
But I was very hyper aware of what I didn't know.
Yeah.
And I think that's essential to be successful in anything is, okay, what do I know? And then more importantly, what don't I know? And I need someone to fill that gap or I'm never going to know.
Yeah.
And the way I got out of that plateau was I forced myself to get good on my back. I pulled, which pulling guard is like
it's out of your DNA,
way out of my DNA, and I did it with you today. Like I need to get good for my back.
Thank you for that.
Well,
it saved me from a horrendous takedown.
Well, maybe because you pull, and that's the thing is like pulling guard. When I first started, I was at Yusuf's, and you didn't pull guard.
Oh, I can imagine. Yeah,
but wrestlers,
Olympic wrestler,
right?
You know? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you're just like you don't pull guard.
Yeah.
Like you end up in guard if something really bad happened.
Yeah.
And now at purple is when I finally started going, okay, I can fight off my back. But I couldn't. So I started telling myself, self-talk, I'm great on my back. I'm dangerous off my back. All positions I'm dominant in. And that's when I got good at X guard. Like I was never good at X guard before that. I was good at going for that straight ankle and switching to X guard.
I see.
I would never start under somebody. Like why would I put myself under a 200-pound dude?
Yeah, right.
But
yeah, somewhat counterintuitive.
But now, like I used open guard with you today. And I used open guard with Isaac today. Now that was an exercise of utility because it was like holding on to your table. Like
yeah, exactly.
But
yeah, it's a moving oak tree. Yeah. Okay. Did you ever have any moments where you felt like, you came into the scene with a huge grappling background. So, you had kind of a skill level up just coming into it, which, I'm super jealous of. And I know a lot of people are that for like guys like, some of our world-class wrestlers that we got, it's like, man, you're not a blue belt. Come on,
Yeah.
Did you, but eventually that wears off. Did you have any periods where you felt like, boom, I'm a jiu-jitsu guy now? Like a couple, like for me, for example,
Brown.
like I had a couple like just overnight levels up. I'm like, whoa, what happened? Like suddenly I feel like I woke up and I know jiu-jitsu.
That was brown belt.
Brown?
Yeah, early brown belt. So I
What
just got
happened?
promoted. I finally got good on my back.
Yeah.
So all
you
throughout
put yourself
purple,
in a weak
put myself in a
position,
weak position,
forced
and
yourself.
because we always start standing at Formiga's, and so what put a good wrestler standing, they're going to do takedowns.
Yeah, 100%.
And I started pulling half guard. I started letting them take me down and giving them side control. I started not stopping them from getting mount. I intentionally turtled so they get my back.
Yeah.
And now someone gets my back, I'm fine.
Yeah.
Someone gets me in my quarter guard, like I'm not happy, but I'm happy.
Yeah. We were talking about that before too with Ian, right? He's a dominant black belt. And so, what do you do so you can make things productive? You put yourself in a spot where you've got, an arm time behind your back figuratively, right? Like you give somebody the arm bar and you find a way to get out of it. Let's just speed things up a little bit.
Yeah. And after about, I'd say 6 months of doing that at least 2 or 3 times a week.
Really?
It was at least 2 training sessions out of the 4 or 5 that I would like, okay, today I'm doing this.
Interesting.
And it was arbitrary. There wasn't a plan. It wasn't anything like that. It was,
really?
I just want to be good everywhere.
I gotcha.
And I'm not amazing everywhere, but I'm dangerous from anywhere.
Yeah.
So
there's
like
not
even
a spot where I would figure like, man, I feel like, okay, cool. I got Tristan in this.
Perfect. Like if you get me in mount, I'm still a threat. Like don't assume because you've got mount and racked up 8 points on me that I'm not going to come back and submit you.
Yeah.
And that's literally, if I had 10 more seconds today, I would have had the straight ankle. And I was 9 points behind. And I want to be in a position where Formiga's worried about me or Rodrigo's worried about me or just a high level competitor. Even if they're doing well, they're going to keep going hard because they know I'm going to come back.
Yeah. Because you're going to keep grinding. An interesting concept that's come up And I mean, it wasn't by no means just, discovered recently, of course, but I've thought about it more recently, and that is intent in training. And what I mean by that is, rather than, okay, cool, me and Tristan are going, we're buddies, this is going to be fun, we slap hands, Tristan does his famous snap down, and I, somehow recover, and then I pull guard or he pull guards or whatever it is. Instead, as an example, like, no, today I want to work on my back with a high level grappler. So I'm going to go out there and I'm going to pull guard on Tristan, and I'm going to work fill in the blank, right? Like having a very specific intent in training. And you could take it back a few steps as well. And that is like working with a coach to develop a game plan. Like I've talked a little bit about that as well. Do you do that at all? I mean, has that been a part of your development?
If I end up opening up a school, which is unlikely, but I love the idea.
Mm-hmm. I like the idea too.
I don't want to teach kids classes, and I like being, I'm really spoiled right now. Like I'm really lazy in terms of my schedule. Like it's mine. Like I don't have to share it. I'm actually I'm more like a toddler. Like it's mine. I don't want to give it to anybody. And
I like the terminology you've used before. Unemployable.
I'm unemployed. Like, hey, you need to be here at this time. F you. Even though that time works perfect for me, but because you said it,
me,
right?
Yeah, exactly. It feels required,
right? Like
That's
it's just
cool,
like
man.
I want to slap them as a response,
That's
even though
so funny.
no, that works perfect for me. Like no,
exactly.
We're doing this time.
I sometimes can see you training yourself out of saying something like that to me.
It's really hard.
It's like I know Tristan just mentally told me something really
vulgar.
Yeah.
Yes.
But gosh, he's smiling.
Yeah, I'm NC-17 in my brain and PG-13 on my tongue.
That's funny.
And
people have to get to know you to understand some of the humor in that.
Right. But yeah, if I were to ever open up an academy, my training sessions would look a lot more like Formiga's than any other place I've trained, where we'd get there, we'd do a quick warm up, but the warm up would be almost as low intensity as what we're doing with the stretching. You know what I mean? Like just get
Cold
moving.
Stretching, as you put
it.
Yeah.
Do a technique. Everybody work just one thing. Yeah. Why? Because I hated getting 4 or 5. Like I hate seminars simply because it's just too much.
Yeah,
like it's sensory overload for me. Because you give me one good thing, I want to work it 1,000 times. Yeah. It was Darren Hardy wrote a handful of books. Great entrepreneur, I think editor of Success Magazine. He said, I'm more worried about my competition in the marketplace that reads the same book 32 times than the guy who read 32 books.
Yeah.
And I'm worried about the guy who's done
similar analogies,
500 arm bars than I am the guy who has 500 submissions.
Yeah.
And
agree. So many people have proven that out to be a very, like a formative strategy too,
So if I were to open up an academy, I would do warm up, one technique, and then wherever that technique was from, that's where we're starting every round. Mm-hmm. So if it's an arm bar from guard, we're starting in guard. Same partner, we do 5-minute roll, just start in guard. You don't have to start anywhere else. You're not starting anywhere else. You can get up. You can go back down. You can end up in mount. Like you keep going until you score. But every match starts in guard. And it's the same guy. So like if it's David and Tristan, you're in my guard for 5 minutes.
Okay.
No matter what happens.
If I pass, I'm good.
If you pass, you're good.
Keep going.
Keep going.
Okay.
And if you submit me, we start over in my guard.
Okay. Cool.
If I submit you, we start over in my guard. And then we switch. And then we switch partners. And then we go regular. And just regular rounds. So just the first round is positional.
Okay.
And then let's say we do attack from turtle like we did today.
Okay.
We're starting in turtle.
Yeah.
You're in turtle. I'm attacking you. Whatever happens. You just get up, whatever.
Okay.
That way everybody's been there a lot by the time they compete.
Yeah.
And that's just one thing I'm really excited about if I ever do, if I ever open up academy, is just all of my fighters are not going to be surprised or not know what to do in those situations. Because if you do that, you always have an attack from guard. You always have an attack from being in guard. You always have an attack from turtle. You always have an attack from being on top of someone in turtle, quarter guard, whatever.
Yeah. You like, once again, not to overuse the wrestling analogy, but like, obviously as a wrestler, you come in, you've kind of got a game plan. Like you've mentioned this yourself, I'm going to slap hands and I'm going to take you down and I'm going to stay on top and I'm going to submit you. Right. Like I'm not going to roll over to my back or anything like that. And I'm probably not going to try to start on my back. However, there are a lot of people, and some of those, real life white belts that we've been talking about and referencing don't have the wrestling background, right? So you come into the jiu-jitsu world, and the jiu-jitsu world could be like, there's so many different lanes.
Deep ocean with
so many different
lanes.
We talked about half guard. We talked about, you're talking about guard. I'm not 100% sure what this is. I want to be on top, but I can't get on top. Developing a game plan, right? For me, that's been a big change for me. I didn't do it really until I was a purple belt. I just kind of like developed things like this knee shield thing that I do. I just stumbled into that when I was a blue belt. I've struggled to kind of explain to people how to develop the game plan.
That's where a good coach comes in.
What would you tell one of your white belts or one of your future students in terms of like, I don't have a background in wrestling, like I'm an open book. How do you go about building quote unquote your game?
Yeah.
A game, I guess.
Stephen Covey wrote a book called 7 Habits of Highly Effective People.
Very
famous
popular.
book. Yeah. First step is begin with the end in mind. And I never start a fight without the intention of finishing it. Neither should you. Okay. And it doesn't. Yes, it's jiu-jitsu, and hey, just hang loose. It's jiu-jitsu.
Yeah. No.
But
it's combat.
It's combat. And I start with what's my goal? Submit or be in a dominant position the whole time to submit. Because why do you get into a dominant position? It's not to finish them with blows. It's to submit them. The gentle art. Like your goal is to get them to say stop. Your goal isn't to destroy them. Your goal is to get up and act like nothing happened. And I think that's one of the cool things that everyone loved about jiu-jitsu early on. Is like, wait a minute, they stopped it, but he didn't hit him.
Yeah.
Right? Like it's just like he put him to sleep and he didn't even hit him. And like it was so flabbergasting that there were no strikes.
Yeah.
Like literally the guy's throwing, the guy gets in there, clinches, takes him down, goes and like never hits him. And so I would tell any white belt, like your goal is to win. How do you win? You submit your opponent.
Yeah.
Position before submission. So we reverse engineer. I need a submission, but I need a position first. How do I get that position? There's attacks. I need to plan my attack. Now, every general will tell you nothing goes according to plan. Okay, you're in the military, you know, nothing goes according to plan.
Yeah.
And as a mechanic, nothing goes according to plan, right? Like no matter what chart you have, the plan's going to change. But my attack with a plan is going to be way more effective than your reaction. Warriors act, fools react.
Yeah.
And the warrior is hyper intentional about that attack until the game plan changes, but then there's another plan already in place. If you do this, I'll do this. And that's what jiu-jitsu is, right?
Yeah.
It's cause and effect. And so my goal, and just to keep things simple, your goal is to get good position, then attack submissions. So make sure you have an attack before you start. And so as a white belt, you only have one attack. Scissor sweep, and
right.
arm bar, and
paper cutter
choke.
Yeah.
Exactly. Like, hey, just work what you know over and over and over again.
Yeah.
Just keep trying to scissor sweep me. Why? Because you'll probably get it.
Yeah.
Think about it. Like most of the moves you get, actually every sweep you've gotten on me has been from your half guard shield.
Yeah.
You're good there, and if you just attack it, I don't give it to you. You attack it, I don't give it to you, and third or fourth time, then you get it.
Yeah.
And I think that's. I mean, and look at Formiga. He wants that.
He wants that butterfly.
He wants that butterfly. Flying, he wants that overhead big fancy thing, and he always gets it. Why?
Yeah.
He always.
It's happening.
He's gonna do it.
He will will it into existence. Yeah.
And I'm the same way with the snap down.
After thousands.
Yeah. Well, and these are black belts. He's doing like if you watch him, like you're literally watching him like it looks like the guy doesn't know jiu-jitsu. He's another black belt. It's insane.
Right.
I remember the fight to win card. I was on the card, or else I wouldn't have been there, and. Literally, I watched him with Thomas Marquinko. I don't know if I'm saying it right. It was all fundamentals. He did nothing fancy. It was balloon sweep to armbar to omoplata to triangle to omoplata to triangle to armbar. Another sweep to. It was just. He probably had 40 points in submission attempts by the time the fight ended, and then the fight ended because the guy finally tapped because he really got hurt, and I literally it was like watching art. I'm like. I was already a Formiga fan.
Yeah.
Like I was a brown belt fighting under his banner. I'm in his corner watching this just amazing show of jiu-jitsu. But here's the thing, Formiga went in with that game plan.
Yeah.
Like we're backstage. He always prays before he fights. But I guarantee you, he was planning on that sweep. He was planning on an armbar. He was planning on a triangle. And I roll with him. He does the exact same, like he's got the same attacks on me because I'm bigger. He always does the same stuff to me.
Yeah, he really learned. Did you pick up when he did his in his podcast in his episode that he picked up that kind of initial butterfly sweep and whatnot from rolling with Laborio?
Yes,
that was amazing, man. But he straight up said like that's not who taught it to me. That's who planted the seed, right? And then he worked on it thousands and thousands and thousands of times. So his timing worked and whatnot. It's amazing, interesting. Kind of turning the corner here and starting to wrap up a couple hours in. I always say this isn't going to go that long and then we start getting deep into it.
Hey, long format sells. People because we wouldn't talk about half of this stuff in a mini conversation.
It's impossible. Yeah. That's the problem is that you just can't get deep enough. We talked about coming back. It's Monday. You got your black belt. Just time to get back after it. culmination of 2 decades worth of
Close to
grappling and more than 2 decades worth of grappling, almost 20 years worth of jiu-jitsu alone. So what's next, man? I mean, what do we have to look forward to in the Tristan Ghazal world of jiu-jitsu?
I think it's an indefinite spectrum on both directions. Like you can go into super lethargic, fat, out of shape. Belly on the couch. Like you can go into
that black belt's only 2 inches wide though,
right.
It's only going to
do so much. It's
going
to hold it in so much. I mean, I could stop and go way the other direction and never be an effective fighter again. You know what I mean? Like I'm sure it's possible. And on the flip side, I could become this amazing whatever. And I'm hoping I'm on that track. And my goal is to make sure I train tomorrow. Like I want to train, I want to compete. Not because I necessarily like the crowd or anything like that. It's scary. Like I don't want to, if that makes sense. Like it's the roller coaster top. Like you're getting locked in the roller coaster. You're excited that's gonna be fun. But there's that little moment where you're like, why am I doing this? Like, I don't want to do this. Right. But as soon as you go off, you're like, that's why.
Yeah.
And it's probably like sparring too. Like you're like, why am I doing this to myself?
Yeah,
I don't want to go.
Just like we talked about at the beginning of class, like, oh my God, Tristan's here. Jeez.
Exactly.
I know we're going to go. Okay, great. I got to get that over with,
Right.
Yeah.
And I just, I don't want to lose the samurai instinct of knowing I need that.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
No, and 100% does.
Because like I don't go with, and not to be, just Isaac was my last role today. I don't go with guys who are bigger, stronger, faster than me because I like it. I go with them because I need it.
Yeah.
I don't go with guys who are better than me because I like it. I go with guys who are better than me so I get better.
Yeah.
And my hope is by the time I get a few stripes on that black belt, I'm way better than I am right now.
Yeah.
Because I think my whole career in jiu-jitsu, I know I'm better than most, but I'm hyper aware of the fact that there's someone who's going to tune me up and I want to be ready for them.
Yeah.
Because if I get tuned up, I don't want to get hurt. I don't want to be hyper unaware of what's happening. I want to be able to learn from it so I get better and I don't lose to the same person twice.
Yeah.
That's my goal.
That's awesome, man. Do you think that 2002, 2003, 2004, whatever it was, when you first strapped that white belt on, do you think that version of yourself would believe that you're a black belt today?
Yes. I don't believe I wouldn't have been able to swallow the pill it would have taken this long.
Yeah.
I thought because I was a wrestler and these other guys weren't. I'm tougher. I've been through wrestling season. These fat businessmen don't know what's coming.
Yeah, that was me.
Right. I thought I was just going to obliterate all of the competition. And you get deep into these waters and realize like, oh, there's some great whites here that I didn't know about. And 2002, I'm glad I didn't know how hard this was, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And I'm really glad that I came up under the lineage that I ended up in.
Yeah.
Because I don't think I would have taken it as seriously.
Yeah.
Like I wouldn't be as, here's the thing, if I stayed training at any other school, I wouldn't be as eager for my kids to train.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't be as eager for my kids to be in this environment because I didn't want them around a bunch of hobbyists that are looking for a way to get an outlet. Like I wanted the lifestyle to be part of it.
Yeah. Gotcha. Dude, we had some nuggets, man. Before we close out, what was the quote you used about the habits again?
Oh, make bad habits hard to do.
Make bad habits hard to do.
And good habits easier to do.
Good habits easier to do. I love that.
Set up blocks on your phone, set reminders, get a pull-up bar in your doorway, put a barbell in your garage. You're like, I don't know, I won't ever use it. But there's gonna be one day where you do, and that one strength training session might be what kept your arm from snapping during an arm bar.
Yeah.
Like it's easier to put fail safes in than it is to white knuckle discipline anything.
I like that, man. I like that. I used to go out and do bench press and commercials watching a football game. Yeah, I love that, man. I'm gonna take that away. Closing thoughts, man.
If you're training, whatever level of training you're at, if it's white belt, blue belt, purple, brown, black, or just thinking about training. Like let's say this is a podcast you're listening to. Like, okay, I'm an executive and I want to maybe do jiu-jitsu. What should I do? I mean, you wouldn't have listened this long.
Exactly.
But, to encourage as a black belt now, which is weird because I expected some black belt magic and it definitely hasn't hit yet. I keep telling Formiga, hey, take this back and get me a new one. This one's not working.
It's because you watched it.
It's because I watched it. I watched the magic off. the best thing I can tell you is just keep training. Like, go to the next class. Even if you get your butt kicked, go to the next class. Like, if there's an open mat, go. And bring your kids with you. Most schools are really family friendly.
Yeah.
And don't use your kids as an excuse why you don't train. Don't use your wife being cranky at you for why you don't. Trust me, your wife will love you more if you're a warrior than if you're a wimp.
Yeah.
Like, this jiu-jitsu develops you in a way nothing else will, other than maybe Russian sambo or wrestling, which both are harder to get access to than jiu-jitsu. There's a jiu-jitsu school on every corner, and there's not a good reason not to train. Just like there's not a good reason to stay in shape. And if jiu-jitsu is your only workout, you're not training outside of that, do some squats, do some push-ups, do some kind of conditioning. I mean, it was who's George St. Pierre's jiu-jitsu guy?
I don't remember the guy up in Montreal.
Faez?
Yeah, something like that. I'm not 100% sure.
Anyway, but he's like, just your goals flow. Like,
yeah,
you should be enjoying yourself. You should feel good. Your goal, if you're super sore the next day, you train too much.
Yeah.
There's this great book called Flow. It's the optimization of the human experience. It's by a couple of Eastern European or Russian guys, really long last names. And your goal isn't to murder yourself like you think it is. Your goal is to, like today, I did 6 rounds, 5. I think I did 5. And that's all I'm going to do today. And I'm going to stretch tonight. And tomorrow I'm going to lift, but I'm not going to lift balls. I mean, it'll be balls to wall during. You've worked out with me. I mean, like, it's a circuit. We're going to get after it. It's going to feel kind of like we're fighting, but we're going to be done in 20 minutes.
Yeah.
And your goals flow. Like, you should feel really good most of the time. And if you don't, something's wrong. If you're always sore, you're not progressing properly. You're progressing too fast. It's too much overload. You're not going to stick with it. And if you're never sore, you're not challenging yourself. Like, there's a flow. Like, there's a happy median. I mean, David's whole podcast is about balance. And if you're a blue belt listening to this or a purple belt listening to this, you're not going to train long enough for your kids to enjoy it with you if there's no flow.
Yeah.
And your goal is flow.
Yeah. It's good stuff, man. Yeah, Fariz had I think that's his name. Like, he did put out some stuff on that as well, and I think it was a podcast with Joe Rogan. I'm not sure exactly.
It was that podcast that turned me on to the book. So I read the
Right?
book.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. That makes sense. So one of the things that he said that resonated with me in that is that, like, we all know people who have, like, straight up farmer strength, right? And they don't get it by going out there and maxing out on hay bales. Mm-hmm. They do it by picking up what they need to pick up every single day. Yeah. And they go out there by just developing it, right? Like, that's why he was so against, like, CrossFit workouts and whatnot, because like the whole concept of AMRAPs and all that stuff.
Well, and see, that's the reason I use the CrossFit app, is because it's it's workout of the day.
Yeah.
So it's not workout 2/3 of the day or 2/3 of the week. This is your day, and tomorrow you're doing another one. And so
you need a little left in the tank, right? Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Interesting, man. Well, dude, I can't tell you how much I've looked up to you, man. We've had so much fun together particularly over the last few months. I mean, there's been a lot of, ups and downs and whatnot, a lot of trips together. I hope you do Maine. I know you're still kind of on the fence, but I hope you do. You're a good bunkmate, man.
I'm easy to room with because
you're always gone. You're always training.
Yeah.
You're either out on the lake or you're rolling. We always know where you're at. Yeah, exactly. And meanwhile, I'm the one that's sitting there sulking with the sore shoulder. So I hope you show back up. But seriously, man, it's been a real pleasure getting to know you, and I hope we continue and get tons more rolls in.
We will.
And then some. I love it. Make bad habits hard to do. Make good habits easier to do. You've heard it here. I hope everybody gets out there, gets after it. Keep your priorities straight. And until next time, we are out.